Chapter 745. Do you really want me to leave? Lin Yuan asked back with a smile. Without my help, you'll just be an evil dragon for the rest of your life. Perhaps in the eyes of most sea demons, you're the majestic leader of the evil dragon, but in the eyes of the dragon clan of the four seas, you're just a chess piece that can be crushed at any time. Yes. Xiaofan slowly lowered its head and replied in a low voice. Its ideal dragon palace of the four seas and the current one could be said to be two extremes. It was true that it wanted to make changes, but with its strength, it couldn't even deal with the current dragon king of the four seas, let alone the few dragon gods who were in charge of the dragon temple and could intimidate the entire endless sea. Without the help of external forces, everything was just empty talk. I can help you with this matter, but relatively speaking, what can you repay me with? As if he couldn't see the gloominess and disappointment in Xiaofan's eyes, Lin Yuan cleared his throat and asked. Xiaofan was slightly stunned. It smiled bitterly and touched its face with its claws. It said bitterly, "Senior, you've seen what happened before. Although I'm not poor, I can't even control my own subordinates. How can I repay you?" Speaking of this, Xiaofan hesitated for a moment and changed the topic. You're the reincarnation of the demon emperor. My thoughts are just a joke in your eyes, so I'll be frank. Since you've taken the initiative to mention this matter, it means that you agree with my idea of changing the dragon palace of the four seas, and you have a way to help me. For this, I'm willing to give everything. As long as you ask, I'll do my best to prepare. Xiaofan's sudden frankness directly caught Lin Yuan off guard. Xiaofan only hesitated for a moment before, but after Lin Yuan's words, it was immediately silenced. Although the path of the gods was different, Lin Yuan wouldn't doubt the power of the gods. Although the ancestral Dragon wouldn't play any tricks on him, at this moment, this sea area should still be under the ancestral Dragon's divine sense. No matter what he wanted to say to Xiaofan, the ancestral Dragon would know immediately. If his words were too explicit, it would bring about a fatal disaster. But if his words were ambiguous, it would give him a chance to take advantage of the loophole. Control Xiaofan? What could he use to control them? The Nether Realm's black water would not work. His method was no secret to the dragon race of the four seas. Even the sea demon clans with a little bit of power knew that he had a black water that could refine living creatures into puppet-like existences. These refined creatures would not only obey his orders unconditionally, they were also unbreakable and unkillable. However, these creatures would become a part of Lin Yuan and be under his control. They might not even have self-awareness. Based on this flaw alone, Lin Yuan was sure that Xiaofan would not accept it. Perhaps it was willing to sell its soul and loyalty to Lin Yuan, but it would not be willing to have its self-awareness erased and not even be able to act on its own. Using the Nether Realm black water would only cause both sides to turn hostile. Furthermore, with Lin Yuan's current cultivation, it was definitely not enough for him to refine Xiaofan into a Nether River creature. Thus, he extracted all the Joss flames that could be converted into energy, and condensed them into the soul that had confronted the ancient lizard god. Most importantly, refining Xiaofan into a Nether River creature did not meet Lin Yuan's requirements. Lin Yuan was actually not interested in a dragon palace of the four seas that accepted other sea demon tribes and no longer placed itself above the clouds. However, if he wanted to overthrow the current system of the dragon palace without alarming the five dragon gods, he indeed needed a member of the dragon palace and a new system. After all, he walked the path of an ancient totem god. Anyone with a bit of knowledge would not choose to be hostile to him. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would definitely not fall out with Lin Yuan. Under such preconditions, Lin Yuan wanted to change the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. He wanted to stuff a large number of non-dragon blood demon beasts to weaken the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. He would then plan slowly instead of relying on the Great Old Ones, the Sea Demon tribes, and the Sea Demon Guild to destroy the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. The price of falling out with him was not something he could bear right now. With a good helper like Xiaofan in front of him, how could Lin Yuan not use it? Senior. Seeing Lin Yuan's silence, Xiaofan asked somewhat anxiously. He did not doubt Lin Yuan's ability at all. After all, even the ancestral dragon had to pay respects to a junior. What qualifications did he, an existence that was not even a real dragon, have to doubt Lin Yuan? Perhaps Lin Yuan was not the ancestral dragon's opponent, but he had casually summoned that existence called Tao Tai before. Although he did not know how the other party came and went without a trace, he knew very well that since Tao Tai could defeat the Resentment Society in an instant, it should not be difficult to deal with it. I was just thinking that I should ask you for something. Lin Yuan raised his tail and motioned for Ao Sifan to be quiet. His eyes sized up Ao Sifan for a moment, and an idea was overturned. As a curse poison produced by the system, it could be said that there was no antidote at all. Once the blood in the body was replaced by him, it could be said that he had the other party's life and death in an instant. But then again, although the curse poison was heaven-defying, if he wanted to control a powerhouse in the Demon King realm, he still needed to pay a large amount of demonic power to complete this matter. Even if the demonic power in his body was abundant, it was estimated that he could not do this and would still be directly drained. So that's how it is. Is Senior still considering? Ao Sifan smiled bitterly again and took the initiative to suggest, "This Junior has a suggestion. I don't know if Senior is willing to accept it. The Dragon Clan of the Four Seas has a treasure called the Scale of Destiny. Using this treasure to conclude a contract, no matter how much both parties regret it afterward, they must strictly carry out the contents of the contract. Otherwise, under the mighty power of the Scale of Destiny, their body and soul will be scattered." Scale of Destiny? Lin Yuan's face showed a dumbfounded expression. In addition to the rope that was wrapped around his neck and tried to make him confess everything, the system directly destroyed it. The Dragon Clan of the Four Seas had too many strange treasures in their hands, right? It was just that he did not know what level this Scale of Destiny was at. As long as Senior is willing to help me change the situation of the Dragon Palace, this Junior is willing to give up everything. Even if this Junior becomes one of the Dragon King of the Four Seas in the future, this Junior will offer unlimited loyalty to Senior. At that time, everything this Junior has will also belong to Senior. How about it? When Lin Yuan was a little stunned, Ao Sifan continued to speak, as if it had completely made up its mind. It seemed that as long as it could change the situation of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, it was willing to give up everything. Chapter 746. Lin Yuan was not surprised by the appearance of an existence like Ao Sifan. As the old saying goes, when a country is about to perish, there will be evildoers. Although this sentence was often taken literally, it actually implied that when the forces that were about to perish lost control of their own territory, ambitious and scheming people jumped out, intending to replace the ancient regime and step onto the stage of power. Compared to some ambitious people who only had selfish desires, there would be another kind of existence. They hoped to change the forces that were about to perish through their unremitting efforts, so that the aging country could continue to live and bloom with new brilliance. This kind of person was usually called a person of ambition. No matter what the final result was, they were an existence worthy of admiration. Ao Sifan was obviously a person of ambition. At the juncture of the destruction of the deputy of the Dragon Palace, he was active on the stage of the Endless Sea as an evil dragon. He was thinking about how to change the self-destructive attitude of the Dragon Palace. No matter how many losses he suffered, how much blood he shed, even if he was depressed sometimes, a little stimulation could make him regain his original heart again. The Scale of Destiny, interesting. Lin Yuan slightly nodded and said indifferently, "I will find time to contact the ancestral dragon. The oath between you and me will be as you said just now. I will help you change the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, and you will give me everything you have." 20,000 miles away. The ancestral dragon, who sensed all of this through his divine sense, slightly paused. A strange color flashed through his gray vertical pupils. He could not understand this black Jiao. If he coveted the power of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, he only needed to follow him back to the Dragon Palace. From then on, Lin Yuan would be the seventh dragon god, and the entire deep sea area of the Endless Sea would be redivided. At least 1/10 of the territory would be given to him. However, he did not hesitate to refuse to be the seventh dragon god. As a result, he turned his head and got together with another evil dragon, as if he was determined to change the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Accept other non-dragon blood demon beasts? How could that be possible? Even though the dragon tribe of the Four Seas had declined and was no longer as powerful as it was in the untainted land, it was not an existence that ordinary demonic beasts could associate with. In the past, although the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon were also mixed-blood demonic beasts and not real dragons, they were all extremely powerful and could leave their names in the long river of history. Although their bloodline wasn't as noble as the ancestral dragon, The mixed blood dragons they gave birth to could easily dominate the top of the food chain of the beasts in the sky martial world. They had ruled the endless sea from scratch and had never met an opponent. Even the mutated ones only had the strange spirit infection ability that they were afraid of. What right did those bumpkin demon beasts without the bloodline of the dragon clan have to associate with them? Taking a step back, even if Lin Yuan and Xiaofan really changed the current situation of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, so what? The authority of the Dragon King of the Four Seas belonged to Xiaofan, and Xiaofan offered her loyalty to Lin Yuan. Did that mean that Lin Yuan had unified the entire Dragon Palace of the Four Seas? But that was the problem. The Dragon Palace of the Four Seas sounded like the highest level of the Dragon Tribe of the Four Seas, but those who knew a little about the Endless Sea knew that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was just a general name. The top level of the Dragon Tribe of the Four Seas had always been the Dragon Temple, and almost all the territories were managed by the Dragon Temple. The Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was just the four crystal palaces in the Endless Sea, just the tip of the iceberg. Even if he unified the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, the authority and territories that Lin Yuan could obtain were far less than that of becoming the seventh Dragon King. Moreover, the Dragon King of the Four Seas was not a pushover. Even if they were only the best among the Demon Kings, they had all touched the threshold of the late Demon King realm. They were not on the same level as Xiaofan, who was stuck at the mid-Demon King realm. However, if the Black Jiao really walked on the path of the totem ancient god, with the cultivation resources that Xiaofan had accumulated, it would be impossible for her to reach the sky in one step. However, if she wanted to reach the level where she could compete with the Dragon King of the Four Seas, it would be possible. All right. The ancestral Gragon spoke softly and murmured, "It's just the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. If you want it, give it to me. Let me see what other trump cards you haven't shown." Then, he turned his gaze back to Lin Yuan. In the end, demon beasts are still demon beasts. Even if their bloodline is powerful and they have lived for a long time, in terms of cunning, they are far from being comparable to humans. It's just that this world is too backward, and that's why demon beasts are dominating this place. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes did not show any joy or sadness, but he was leisurely criticizing in his heart. Perhaps the ancestral Gragon was a powerful and wise existence in the eyes of other demon beasts, but compared to Lin Yuan, who came from the future and was used to countless schemes in reality, on the internet, and in history, the ancestral Gragon was just a half-baked existence. There was a saying in his previous life. Some people really lived for 10,000 days, and some people only repeated one day 10,000 times. Compared to Lin Yuan, who had been influenced by the internet and received the explosion of information, the demon beasts of this world, even if they had wisdom comparable to human beings and endless experience, were just the kind of existences who had repeated one day 10,000 times. If he guessed correctly, the ancestral Gragon would be wondering what he was planning right now. Was he throwing away a watermelon for a sesame seed, or was he secretly planning something else? Curiosity was often the first step to the abyss. As for existences who had lived in loneliness for a long time, once they took the first step, they would play the role of audience and supporting role 100%. They would even take the initiative to cooperate with Lin Yuan and see what Lin Yuan's next move would be after he helped Xiaofan control the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Thinking about that, Lin Yuan calmed himself down again and looked at Xiaofan. He said casually, "It's true that I can give you some help, but it doesn't mean that you can see the changes in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas if you do nothing. Otherwise, why would I want to cooperate with you?" The joy in Xiaofan's eyes disappeared, and it asked solemnly, "I only hoped that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would change its current arrogance and conceit, but I haven't been able to find an entry point. At first, I had a few like-minded friends whom I could talk to, and I thought that I had found a confidant. As it turned out, they were all spies that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas had planted around me. They were cooperating with me on purpose and did not really think that my idea was correct. Also, they had been misleading me all the time. So until now, I still haven't found an entry point to push forward with this matter." Speaking of this, it paused for a moment and seemed to be somewhat ashamed. After 2 breaths it murmured, "If I may ask, Senior, what can you teach me?" "Entry point? Isn't that the best entry point?" Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a stern look, and he asked in a gloomy tone. Chapter 747. 3 days later. Northern Frontier. Wei River. Yan Xingqi was wearing a silver armor, sitting in the front-line commander's tent. His resolute face was filled with a solemn expression, but there was a hint of excitement in his slightly cloudy eyes. Ever since he lost to Lei Qiusheng, Yan Xingqi had been exiled to the northern frontier. Although he was guarding Shunning City with the title of guardian, he did not have any military power. At most, he was just a powerful cultivator. Unlike the life he had long been used to, Yan Xingqi spent most of his time in the northern frontier, eating and waiting for death. He was so bored that he was about to become depressed. However, after the rise of the Black Jiao and his arrival at the northern frontier, he actually had the chance to command an army of thousands again. How could he suppress his excitement? Even though this battle would be very difficult, and could even be said to be a narrow escape. Here, and here, there are suspected to be experts overseeing. We need to pay attention to them. Finally, we need to pay attention to this place. Whether it is the enemy's military deployment or the geographical location, it is very likely to be a granary arranged by the Sky Demon Army. It could also be a trap to lure us into. Luo Su stretched out his hand and pointed at the war sand table in front of him, his expression equally grave. There were close to 170,000 northern frontier elites on the front-line battlefield. Among them, there was no lack of graduates and instructors from the Northern Frontier Military Academy. Almost 4/10 of the experts in the Northern Frontier had been drawn here. They had set off from the source of Wei River before the Sky Demon Army, and arrived at the place where the Sky Demon Army was preparing to cross the river. They planned to meet force with force and engage in a bloody battle with the Sky Demon Army first. This battle was not to force back the enemy, nor to kill the enemy. The only requirement was to force out the Sky Demon's trump card as much as possible. This plan came from Luo Su, and it was called the Death Trap Plan. As the name implied, it was to use their lives in exchange for information on the Heavenly Demon Army. In Luo Su's initial plan, this team was destined to be completely annihilated, and the plan would fail if even one of them returned alive. In order to show his determination, the person who came up with the plan, Luo Su himself, personally participated in this plan, and even participated in the battle as a supervisor. He was the last one to charge at the Heavenly Demon Army. However, the Death Trap plan was forcefully changed by Li Zhong. As long as the Battle Analysis Department felt that there was enough information, Li Zhong would order them to retreat. They would sacrifice some people to delay the Sky Demon Army so that the remaining people could return to the second defense line. To put it simply, Li Zhong believed that even if the elites on the front line were wiped out, they might not be able to get all the information about the Sky Devil Legion. As long as they had a rough idea, it would be enough for the analysis department to make a deduction. There was no need to let everyone die. Granary. Yan Xingqi slightly raised his eyebrows and said with a frown, "If that's the case, perhaps we can change our attack plan. We can give up on part of the battlefield and focus our main force on the enemy's granary area. No matter if this is a trap or not, there should be a large number of sky demons appearing. If they can't take us down, there will be an endless stream of sky demons appearing. Those old men from the Ministry of Work should be able to get the information of these sky demons through the equipment we carry, right? Although the sky demon was immortal, if they wanted to affect the material world, they needed a physical body. Although it was not impossible for them to survive without a physical body, they would have no chance to interfere in this battle. After all, even if the Sky Demon could take over a body, it would need time to destroy the original soul of the body and even more time to nourish the body so that it would have the corresponding strength. It seemed that the immortal Sky Demon had an advantage over the northern frontier, but in reality, this was not the case. The Sky Demon could only die once. Even if it was not imprisoned by the magic sealing bottle, it would directly bid farewell to this battle. Other than dying on the battlefield, the Sky Demon had to properly nourish its body. Only by sleeping and eating could it live well. Otherwise, it would die if its body collapsed. No matter how strong the Sky Demon's influence was, it could not control a corpse to do all kinds of actions. That's the logic, but Luo Su's face showed a touch of difficulty. He said bitterly, "The possibility of this place being a trap is very high, and it is impossible for all of us to go there. The second line of defense is still waiting for our information. Before they are ready, we have to block this section of the Wei River to prevent the Sky Demon from crossing the river and attacking the second line of defense in advance." Speaking up to this point, Luo Su sighed and continued, "If we are separated, it will be very difficult. After all, we can't communicate with each other. Once the Sky Demon launches a feint attack, it will be easy for us to believe that all of the people who participated in the raid on the granary have died." Yan Xingqi reached out and touched his chin. A light flashed in his eyes and disappeared. He said coldly, "Our strength is ultimately inferior to the Sky Demon's. If we take the initiative to attack, we can only choose this granary. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve our goal. However, your worry is indeed a problem. In my opinion, why don't we lure the enemy out? Lure the enemy out. Luo Su was slightly stunned. He asked doubtfully, how do we lure the enemy out? Now that they had deployed their troops here, they were waiting to meet the Heavenly Devil Army's vanguard head-on. How were they going to bait the enemy into attacking? Headquarters could probably send a set of female clothing to the Heavenly Devil Army's commander, right? We know nothing about the Sky Demon's intelligence. We have to use our lives to gather intelligence. However, looking at this matter from another perspective, the Sky Demon is not completely ignorant of our intelligence. Yan Xingqi reached out and stroked his beard. He smiled and said, if an important person or an outstanding junior with limitless potential appears on our side, how do you think the Sky Demon's side will react? In order to assassinate the experts on the Sky Demon's side, the experts from the Imperial Secret Service and Night Unremitting had all come out and formed an assassination team hidden in the shadows of the frontline troops. However, the Sky Demon's side would definitely be prepared. They should have also arranged for a counter-assassination. These people could transform into deadly assassins and assassinate the important people on the northern frontier. What a good plan to lure the enemy out. A bright gleam flashed across Luo Su's eyes as he laughed sinisterly. Turning passivity into initiative, you set up a deadly trap for the Sky Devil, and even forced him to jump into it. You are indeed one of the Gemini of myriad swords. Commander Yen, you must let me participate in this mission to lure the enemy out. Luo Su was also a general when he served the Shenwu dynasty. He was the commander of the Zhanshan City Garrison Legion. He was considered a first-rate general with real power in the northern frontier. Naturally, his military knowledge was not low. He immediately saw through Yan Xingqi's intention. Once the Sky Demon fell into the trap, not only would experts appear one after another, they would even use their lives to kill the important people on the northern frontier in order to destroy the morale of the northern frontier. Chapter 748. From the assassin side to the assassin side, theoretically speaking, we do have the upper hand. An emotionless voice echoed and said casually, but the problem is that we are different from the extraterrestrial devils. We even need to pile up detailed information about the enemy with our lives. Where do we find the manpower to set up traps for the counter-assassination? Fancy operations might have miraculous effects, but everyone, calm down and think about it. Don't tell me that not only will this go overboard, but we'll also lose a lot of manpower without getting enough returns, and we won't even be able to achieve our most basic goal? Luo Su's gaze moved slightly, and he quickly found the person who poured cold water on them. He was born in a small aristocratic family in the north, but it was a stretch to call him an aristocratic family. At most, he could be considered a tyrant. If it wasn't for the Dragon King occupying the northern frontier and sweeping through the northern territories, this small aristocratic family would have to sell off their ancestral properties and become commoners after 1 or 2 generations. Their descendants might not even be able to touch the threshold of cultivation. However, this young man was the most outstanding one in this small aristocratic family. He had a good reputation in his hometown and had successfully entered the Northern Frontier Strategy Institute. This time, he had volunteered to participate in the death room operation, so Luo Su had a good impression of him. I don't think so. Another disciple of the Strategy Institute spoke up. He stared straight at the young man who poured cold water on them without any intention of backing down. The Strategy Institute's policy of nurturing their disciples had always been like this. Compared to the united and friendly training of other academies, the Strategy Institute's instructors preferred to create all kinds of opponents for their students to sharpen each other. It was like raising poisonous insects. As long as your methods were in place, even if you were clearly in the wrong and threw the blame away, the Strategy Institute's instructors would still judge you as the winner. The Strategy Institute's disciples couldn't watch performances. No matter how bright and elegant they appeared to be, those who could successfully graduate from the Strategy Institute were not easy to deal with. Any one of them would be punished by the reporters with major demerits, detention, and so on. The punishments written on their resumes were endless. The Strategy Institute's disciples never looked at the instructor or the content of their studies. As long as they could graduate, they would be considered a qualified schemer. After graduation, the cleaner their resumes were, the more powerful their methods were. Everything else was just a facade. Most of the time, their results weren't as convincing as their resumes. Su Linrui, why do you have to follow me everywhere? The young man slapped the edge of the sand table in front of him and growled. I won't bicker with you over small matters, but this time, we can't afford to be careless. If there's even the slightest mistake, who knows how many lives we'll have to pay for it? Su Linrui crossed his arms in front of his chest and said indifferently, Shen Feng, I am not going against you in everything, but this matter is indeed not stable. With your personality, we definitely cannot hide how much fighting strength we have in our hands from you, so you should also be very clear about one thing. At this point, Su Linrui paused and smiled bitterly. Even if we follow our original plan and stuff everyone's heads in, the information we get won't meet the requirements of the higher-ups. So this opportunity can't be missed. It wasn't that the people who participated in the space of death weren't afraid of death, but they definitely didn't want their deaths to be worthless. If they were to talk about stability at this time of life and death, the outcome would definitely not be good. Su Linrui clenched his fists as if he had the entire situation under control. He said in a deep voice, Let's take a gamble. Even if we lose, it's actually not a big deal. It's just a matter of dying sooner or later. If we can kill a few deputy generals or lure out the experts hiding in the Sky Demon army who haven't shown up yet, our side will have profited greatly. Although the aristocratic family Shen Feng was born in wasn't a rich or powerful family, they still had some savings and had no problem supporting the cultivation of their descendants. However, the way they cultivated the younger generation was somewhat petty. Simply speaking, Shen Feng still maintained the mentality of doing less and making fewer mistakes. After everything was done, he sought stability. He didn't seek to make contributions, but he wanted to be helpless. Su Linrui was born in a proper humble family, so he wasn't homeless on the streets. Before the Dragon King took over the northern frontier, he could barely get enough to eat and wear. Whether it was cultivation or studying, he almost had no fate with them. However, his luck was not bad. He met the Dragon King when he took over the northern frontier. Although his cultivation was a little late and his starting point was much slower than the children of the aristocratic families of the same age, it wasn't to the point where he couldn't cultivate, or even if he cultivated, there was no future for him. For these children of humble families, when an opportunity appeared in front of them, it was like a hungry dog seeing a meat bone. As long as they were stunned, they would absolutely not let go. Luo Su took in all of this. An undetectable light flashed across his eyes. He opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. While Luo Su was observing Su Linrui and Shen Feng, Yan Xingqi was also observing Luo Su. After seeing the light in Luo Su's eyes, he quickly realized that Luo Su probably already had a plan. After pondering for a moment, Yan Xingqi slowly said, Soldiers are unpredictable. No matter if it's good or bad, they all need to have enough combat power to support them. However, it's obvious that we don't have enough combat power. We can only use our lives to make up for it. As his voice fell, Shen Feng and Su Linrui both fell silent. Since Yan Xingqi had proposed the idea of splitting up the troops to lure the Sky Demon experts to attack the important people of the northern frontier, then it was obvious that he supported that idea. With the identity of the frontline commander, unless Shen Feng had a way to persuade Yan Xingqi, the entire battle plan would definitely be changed. This battle plan was most likely to be executed, but the frontline army didn't have enough combat power to ensure that everyone who acted as bait would be safe. Then, they would definitely have to give up some people and use some fake and real methods to ambush a group of Sky Demon experts. At the same time, they would be able to obtain as much information as possible about the experts on the Sky Demon side. Then, who should they give up? Even though almost everyone who participated in the space of death didn't want to return alive, they had come to the mortal world and become cultivators. Who would want to die for nothing? To be a hero that would be recorded in the textbooks of the Northern Frontier Academy, or to be an ordinary number in the Ministry of War's list of casualties. With such a choice, everyone would want to choose the former, right? Even though our camp has an array that can detect the Sky Demon, and we're not afraid of the invisible Sky Demon coming to spy on us, our actions should attract the attention of the Sky Demon. They will soon understand our intentions. However, they have the power to crush our frontline army, so they will definitely take the bait. Zhao Guangchong stood up and said calmly, I agree to carry out this plan. Furthermore, I apply to be one of the sacrificial pawns. This is my opinion. Don't try to persuade me. I will not change my mind once I've made up my mind. Chapter 749. Nonsense. Luo Su's expression stiffened as he scolded. What kind of status did Zhao Guangchong have? He was a student of the Northern Frontier's Star General class. He was a junior who had to call Lin Yuan teacher. His strength and potential were not bad. Although he occasionally messed up a few missions, most of the time, even if Zhao Guangchong risked his life, he would not disappoint Lin Yuan. From Luo Su's perspective, as long as Zhao Guangchong did not die, he would definitely become an important figure in the Northern Frontier's military. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't persuade Zhao Guangchong and the head of the Weapon Institute, he wouldn't have wanted Zhao Guangchong to participate in this death trap operation. Now, Zhao Guangchong's words were no different from seeking his own death. Commander Luo, when you refused to let me participate in this death trap operation, I knew that you thought highly of my future potential. However, I feel that you're overthinking things. I'm only at the middle level in the Star General class. The only reason I caught teachers I was because I gritted my teeth and took on a mission that might have led to my death when I faced off against the Blood Liao Knights. In this death trap operation, our military strength is severely lacking. To put it bluntly, you might die, and Commander Yen might also die. In that case, is there any reason why I can't die? Although the Sky Demon Corps has been isolated by various detection arrays, we don't know how long they've been infiltrating the Northern Frontier. I'm afraid that all the people who have taken the Elixir of Immortality still haven't been completely cleaned up. The list of important people on our side has probably long been placed in front of the commander of the Sky Demon Corps. This is why I believe that Commander Yan's plan to attract and assassinate us will succeed. The Sky Demon Corps is like a jackal. Their greed determines that they won't miss this opportunity. However, if it isn't an important mission, the Sky Demon Corps might also give up on the assassination. This time, the bait must be someone with a high position in the Northern Frontier, or an outstanding reserve talent in the Northern Frontier, or a junior like me who is starting to have some reputation. If we release some worthless people as bait, the Sky Demon Army might not take the bait. Forgive me for being blunt, but everyone in the commander's tent can be considered as bait, and those outside the tent are not qualified. At this point, Zhao Guangchong rubbed his nose and chuckled. As for why I became an abandoned pawn, the reason is very simple. I understand. Without waiting for Zhao Guangchong to finish, Su Lin Rue also stood up and said in a deep voice. In the eyes of the Sky Demon, the more valuable the bait appears, the more powerful the Sky Demon will be attracted. The rest of the assassins will be scattered to assassinate the less valuable bait. What was the mission of the Frontline Legion? Use your life in exchange for information on the Sky Demon Corps. They were all equipped with live broadcast equipment produced by the Ministry of Works. Once the Sky Demon Corps appeared, the battle scene would immediately be recorded and transmitted to the projector of the Ministry of Works in the Northern Frontier. Therefore, if the valuable bait encountered the assassins, it would be equivalent to completing the mission. Whether they lived or died would depend on their own abilities. As for the less valuable bait in the eyes of the Sky Demon, it would only attract a portion of the strong ones, and only the elites on the Sky Demon's side. This level of combat power wasn't weak, but it wasn't strong either. If the combat power was gathered around the more valuable people, the chances of winning might not be high. However, if the combat power was gathered around the less valuable people, it would be possible to kill many of the Sky Demon's elites. This plan was feasible. Yan Xingqi waved his hand and said excitedly, "Okay, let's do it. I will select the elites and follow the less valuable targets in the eyes of the Sky Demon. After killing them, they will immediately return to the second defense line and prepare for the final battle. If they die, then they can only blame it on their bad luck. Also, no matter if you succeed or not, the frontline battlefield will no longer have anything to do with you. Don't lose your life because of your emotions." General Yan Xingqi's old subordinate, the current #1 general of the Northern Frontier, Gao Chuanjin, suddenly said with a choked voice. Yan Xingqi's words sounded like he was giving a mission, but in reality, he had already decided to die. The Sky Demon Army had an absolute advantage in terms of strength. After they decided to assassinate the important people in the Northern Frontier, they wouldn't just stand there and wait for the results. It was more likely that the Sky Demon Army would cooperate with them. When the assassination team set off, the rest of the troops would also join the battle and closely follow Yan Xingqi's frontline army, not giving him any chance to support them. At that time, almost all of the upper echelons of the army had been mobilized. With just a bunch of normal soldiers fighting against the Sky Demon Army, their defeat was almost certain. Therefore, Yan Xingqi's trip this time was a sure death. Don't act like a little girl. To a general, dying in battle is the highest honor. Yan Xingqi waved his hand, as if he was very dissatisfied with Gao Chuanzhen's attitude. There were some things that he knew, but he couldn't say it out loud. The Black Jiao had always been wary of him. The reason why the Black Jiao allowed him to live in the northern frontier was purely because of his military strength. If Yan Xingqi caused trouble, the Black Jiao would definitely be able to suppress him in the future. However, that was only for Yan Xingqi. If Yan Xingqi had an army that was completely loyal to him, even if he couldn't defeat the Northern Frontier Army, he would still be able to greatly damage the Northern Frontier Army. Therefore, although Lin Yuan allowed him to live, he wouldn't take him into the Northern Frontier Army like he did with Gao Chuanzhen. He wouldn't even give him a chance to command the army. The Northern Frontier Army was destined to soar in the future. Lei Qiusheng was pulled down from the throne, so Yan Xingqi had no more regrets. For someone like him who was a remnant of the old era, being able to sacrifice his life for the Northern Frontier Army was already the greatest reward. If he missed this opportunity, he would only be able to spend the rest of his life in the Northern Frontier Army. In the end, he would die a nameless death. Therefore, when Luo Su found him and asked him to be the commander of the Death Trap plan, Yan Xingqi didn't even think about it before agreeing. This time, he didn't even think about going back alive. Then, regarding the matter of being the bait, leave it to me. Marshal Yan, send me a report later so that I can plan out the exact route and the allocation of personnel. Luo Su slowly stood up, his expression solemn as he bowed towards Yan Xingqi. In a deep voice he said, "Once, I was also a military general who was loyal to the Thousand Swords Empire. That was why I was sent to the northern frontier by Lei Qiusheng to guard against the demonic beasts. However, I didn't have your amazing military talent, so I didn't have nothing to do. I thought that when Lei Fan found me, it would be an opportunity for me to return to the imperial court. But in the end, I still chose to stay in the Northern Frontier Army and became the governor of the Imperial Secret Service, a name that others would hate and frown at." Speaking up to this point, Luo Su paused for a moment, then said in a deep voice, "I swear on my identity as your former colleague, that the Northern Frontier Army's future will be better than what you expect. You, your adopted son and daughter, will have a good future in the Northern Frontier." Chapter 750. Endless Sea. Willow Rock Sea Region. After returning to the Willow Rock Sea region where the gray-scaled flood dragon person was stationed, although most of the buildings had already been rebuilt, the embers of war were still present. Recently, although the various major powers were attracted by the aberrations exposed by Lin Yuan, there were also some small-scale sea demon clans that were coveting the Willow Rock Sea region. However, with Cyrus, the gray-scaled flood dragon person and a portion of the new generation of sin dragons arranged by Ao Siphon, they were able to quickly deal with and suppress them. At the very least, they would not be robbed of their foothold. Is that so? That's truly like Luo Su's style. Lin Yuan was lying on a coral throne. His heterochromatic eyes were shining brightly. Through prayer, he was communicating with a believer left behind in the northern frontier. Death Plan. Bait Plan. These two plans conceived and prepared by Luo Su and Yan Xingqi were reported to Lin Yuan in detail. Even the expressions and tones of the people in the commander's tent that day were repeated. It was as if there was a pair of eyes that they could not see watching them the entire time. Furthermore, the conversation between the two youths in Wei River City was also reported to Lin Yuan. That Blackwater soldier by the name of Bao Yuan did not attract Lin Yuan's attention. After all, as the teacher in charge of the Star General class, although Lin Yuan placed Qin Yu and Zhao Guangchong in important positions, he was not completely ignorant of the characters and abilities of the other academies. In fact, he had even planned out a future path for each of them. It was just that he had yet to put it into action. The two youths that he placed in important positions were merely to set an example and tell the people of the northern frontier one thing. As long as they had sufficient strength and courage, they should step forward. In the northern frontier, as long as one had sufficient strength, one should become a person above others. It could be considered as a strategy to attract those who did not seize the opportunity of establishing academies in the northern frontier and were still scattered in various regions of the northern frontier. Although the northern frontier was only a region under the Xinwu dynasty and was only a corner of the entire Tianwu continent, compared to Lin Yuan's previous life, the Tianwu continent size was simply frightening. Even the northern frontier was half the size of Lin Yuan's previous life's motherland. adding the entire northern frontier that was about the same size as Lin Yuan's territory, the Tianwu continent's territory. As for why the entire northern frontier was about the same size as the northern frontier, that was because the northern frontier's area that had been developed by humans was actually very small. After leaving the original Zhanshan city, even if one entered the vast and boundless Hengduan mountain range, with the Shenwu dynasty's strength, they could only barely develop to Zhanshan city. Therefore, the northern frontier and the north were actually two different places. It was just that the northern frontier was more bitter and cold, and there were also demonic beasts' attacks. Officials with even a little bit of ability were not willing to go to the northern frontier to take up an important position. They could only be classified as the northern frontier, and the Shenwu dynasty's governor of the northern frontier led the northern frontier from afar. However, it was said that the governor of the northern frontier led the northern frontier, but in fact, the governor of the northern frontier had no control over the northern frontier at all. The Shenwu dynasty's strongest person in the northern frontier was only Yan Xingqi, a semi-exiled person who only listened to orders but did not listen to orders. If not for this, with the elite troops of the Shenwu dynasty, Lin Yuan would not have been able to occupy the northern frontier. In the end, forces such as the garrison army were just like the autonomous union. They bore the name of the Shenwu dynasty, but in essence, they were still civilian organizations and could only be regarded as militias. Other than the garrison army of Shunning City, the other border cities rarely received supplies and equipment from the Shenwu dynasty. I know. Then, you should also prepare to take action. Tell the Sky Demon that the northern frontier's territory is not that easy to conquer, and the people in the northern frontier are not that easy to kill. Don't disappoint the name I gave you. Diablo. The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth rose, and he opened his mouth, revealing a ferocious smile. The name Diablo came from a game that Lin Yuan liked in his previous life before he had a blood feud. In the game, Diablo was a powerful demon from hell. In the game, Diablo was one of the three giants of hell. Unlike the 7 deadly sins represented by the 7 demon kings in ancient mythology, Diablo represented the emotion, fear. In other words, it would endlessly bring fear to its enemies. The heroes in the game world thought that they had defeated Diablo, but that was just one part of Diablo's plan. Who would have thought that the real demon had the whole world under his control? In this world, Diablo was not that powerful. It was just a replica created by Lin Yuan with the help of the system and various monsters. It did not have the power to destroy the world, nor did it have the wisdom to toy with the heroes of this world. Everything it had was a gift from Lin Yuan, so it was absolutely loyal to Lin Yuan. A demon lord. Created by Lin Yuan himself. Yes, a demon lord. Lin Yuan had created a group of strange monsters under Diablo's command. Because some of the monsters did not want to identify with their strange appearance, Lin Yuan called them demons, and handed them over to Diablo to command. Lin Yuan called them demons, and handed them over to Diablo to command. The monsters created by Lin Yuan had the ability to reproduce. Although they were creatures created by the system, they were no different from ordinary creatures except that they could not cause direct harm to Lin Yuan. Therefore, the demons that had been hiding in the dark were now one of Lin Yuan's most powerful trump cards. The demons created by the system at the beginning had almost all died in the war when Diablo occupied the territory in the Hengduan mountain. Now, almost all of Diablo's subordinates were second-generation and third-generation demons. They were not very loyal to Lin Yuan, but they could cultivate and reproduce on their own. They still had Lin Yuan's twisted sense of admiration for the strong, blind loyalty, and community. As the strongest of the demons, Diablo had naturally become the leader of all demons. With one order, countless demons would die, because in the demon's mind, the strong had absolute control over the weak. Unless a new demon lord who was as strong as Diablo appeared, or Diablo died, with Diablo's loyalty to Lin Yuan, this unexposed demon army would be Lin Yuan's in the palm of his hand. However, Lin Yuan was not in a good mood. Another trump card has been revealed. This is really troublesome. I can intimidate the jackals for a while, but how can I intimidate them forever? Without the absolute power to conquer the world, how many trump cards can I reveal? Murmuring, Lin Yuan tried to empty his mind and began to refine his demonic power. Chapter 751. 3 days later. Shenwu Dynasty, on the banks of the Wei River, at the foot of a nameless mountain. Remember, no matter what you see, don't act blindly. Feign an attack, pretend that you are not a match, and retreat. Your posture must be adequate, but you must also give the assassins hiding in the dark a chance. Once you retreat and encounter an attack from an expert, fight with all your strength. The experts hiding in the dark will rush to the battlefield as soon as possible to provide support. Luo Su rode on a warhorse with the bloodline of a demonic beast. A cold glint flashed across his eyes that were exposed to the air. He slowly turned his head and said in a deep voice, "Su Lin Rui, Shen Feng, you two have no objections to following my team, right?" Shen Feng smiled bitterly, but did not say anything. Su Lin Rui was also silent for a moment before he slowly said, "I accept Commander Luo's kindness, but since I have already come to the front line, why would I care about personal life and death? I ask Commander Luo to withdraw his order, and let me follow Field Officer Zhao to attack the area suspected to be the granary of the Sky Demon Corps." Zhao Guangchong rode on his horse and said coldly, "There is no one who is afraid of death in the death plan, but even if you die in this war, you should at least die with some value, right?" "What does Field Officer Zhao mean?" Su Lin Rui was slightly startled, as if he did not react to Zhao Guangchong's words. Zhao Guangchong snorted coldly. He put on his helmet and mounted his horse, not looking at Su Lin Rui. After a long while, Su Lin Rui smiled bitterly and touched his nose helplessly. The candidates for the bait had been chosen long ago. Other than the hidden people who wore the Ministry of Works, who could hide their presence and sense the Sky Demon, who had already set off for the predetermined location, everyone else had set off at this moment. They were divided into 4 teams and rushed to different locations to carry out the plan. Zhao Guangchong, Luo Su, Gao Buzhen, and a white-faced young man named Lin Yin. It was said that he was the new vice president of the Association of the Demon Emperor who replaced Shi Dong. He was in charge of all the intelligence work of the Association of the Demon Emperor. This time, he came to the front line with Luo Su. This Lin Yin was naturally not Lin Yuan's puppet body, but a person created by Lin Yuan through the system. He had the exact same appearance as his unmodified puppet body. After the incident with Yan Hua, this identity was on the Sky Demon's list of important people. He was the most suitable candidate for the bait. Regarding the matter of the puppet's body, even the existence of Luo Su's level was not clear. Except for the Ministry of Works and Lin Yuan himself, who would have thought that Lin Yin was actually a non-existent person? After the 4 teams entered the predetermined area, they would split up again and use different routes to head to the 4 locations where they were going to feign an attack. Then they would split up and retreat. The purpose of this tactic was to give the heavenly demon assassins a chance to strike, allowing the spies hiding in the dark to kill a bunch of powerful heavenly demons. Among these teams, the safest one would undoubtedly be Luo Su's team. The reason was simple. Luo Su was usually wrapped in bandages. No matter how powerful the Sky Demon was, he couldn't determine whether this person was Luo Su just by looking at a pair of eyes. Therefore, as long as he found someone similar to Luo Su and wrapped him in bandages, a Luo Su would appear. In addition, Luo Su had the task of being a supervisor. He was also a big shot in the northern frontier, who could kill countless people with a stomp of his foot. Naturally, he wouldn't carry out such a risky task. Even if the Sky Demon wanted to assassinate Luo Su, he wouldn't choose to arrange a large number of experts. Compared to this bait, Zhao Guangchong and Gao Buzhen were more attractive. After all, to the Sky Demon, even if he let the real Luo Su go, it was just letting a Heaven Realm cultivator go. He didn't have the ability to command a large army and couldn't spy on the Sky Demon. With these 2 points combined, there was no need to kill Luo Su other than his identity. Luo Su only let Shen Feng and Su Lin Rui follow because he wanted to protect these 2 good seedlings. However, Su Lin Rui's request was a little harsh in Zhao Guangchong's ears. As the most outstanding young general in the northern frontier, Zhao Guangchong didn't have a hard time imagining that the Sky Demon who participated in the assassination this time would be absolute experts. In addition, the location of this surprise attack was suspected to be the Sky Demon Army's granary. Even if Yan Xingqi personally came to lead this team, there wouldn't be any difference. The only result would be a complete annihilation. Su Lin Rui following this team wasn't just seeking death. To put it bluntly, he was dragging them down. At night, the moonlight was getting colder. The 4 teams neatly set off under the cover of the night. 100 miles away, a 3-meter-tall humanoid creature stood on the trunk of a huge tree. Its amber eyes moved slightly as it watched the 4 teams slowly leave its sight. After a while, the air around it slightly distorted, and a huge eyeball appeared floating in the air. Lord Diablo, the bait has been released. According to the information from the other side, the Sky Demon has also organized a team of experts to assassinate you. The following is the list of the Sky Demon assassins and the targets they are responsible for. When the eyeball monster spoke, it was actually a clear voice of a girl. Ha! Diablo pondered for a moment. The thick red snake tail behind him swung gently and said in a deep voice, "There is no need to report this kind of thing. You can arrange your own people. Also, send Carlyle and Hawthorne to organize a counter-assassination team. Target the weak assassins. Be sure to kill them all." Lord Diablo. The eyeball monster trembled slightly. It looked like it wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Diablo's red snake tail kept moving behind him. He said in a deep and magnetic voice, "This is the first mission given to me by my benevolent master. I don't want to mess it up. As for the team that raided the Sky Demon's granary, I will personally follow them and convey my orders to the other teams. If the mission fails, don't come back to see me. I will let the demon generals collect their corpses. If they are unwilling to commit suicide, I will kill them even if I have to chase them to the ends of the earth." "Yes, as you wish, Lord Diablo." The eyeball monster trembled again. A large amount of crystal-clear liquid was secreted from its body as if it was sweating. "I am following the will of my great master." Diablo raised a finger. A large amount of yellow gas was exhaled from his nose and mouth. Suddenly, the air was filled with a choking smell of sulfur. Suddenly, the huge red goat head turned slightly and said in a cold voice, "You have guts. You dare to come above my head after sensing my aura. Since that is the case, there is no need for you to leave." As soon as he finished speaking, 6 large hands wrapped in red cuticles suddenly reached out, as if they had grabbed something invisible. With a light squeeze, the sound of the wind immediately brought a painful groan from one of the invisible heavenly demons. Chapter 752. A ruthless soul filled with the desire to kill. It doesn't even make me want to eat it. Diablo frowned and waved his hand discontentedly. "It's yours," he said calmly. The eyeball demon shook its body again. It did not move, but the sound of chewing was clearly heard. Devouring souls and tempting depravity were also one of the characteristics of demons. To demons, the Sky Demon without a physical body was like a delicious meal. Until now, the demon army that was ordered to attack by Lin Yuan had not been discovered by the seemingly omnipresent Sky Demon. This was because all the Sky Demons that detected the demon army were captured and eaten by the demon army. After all, without a physical body, they could not affect the material world. How could they be a match for the demons who specialized in devouring souls? In front of the demons with strange abilities, the Sky Demon without a physical body could not even escape. Apparently, the heavenly demons did not realize this abnormal situation. After all, they were just the evil thoughts of a powerful being from the untainted world. Without reaching a certain level of strength, their intelligence was not that high. They were even inferior to demonic beasts. In addition, there had been cases of large numbers of invisible Sky Demon disappearing. After all, the army of the northern frontier used all kinds of magic sealing devices to capture Sky Demons every day. The northern frontier did not require as many complicated methods as other cultivators to destroy Sky Demons. They only needed to sink the magic sealing device into the black water of the nether realm left by Lin Yuan, and the Sky Demon would immediately be turned into a creature of the Nether River. To be able to destroy the enemy and strengthen oneself, why not? This was the main reason why the Sky Demon gradually retreated from the northern frontier. Not only did they not gain anything from their ambush, but they also lost a large number of invisible Sky Demons. This caused the commander of the Sky Demon to recall the invisible Sky Demons that were investigating the northern frontier. This caused both sides to fall into a blind spot. However, Diablo was different. Extraterrestrial demons, who were full of bloodlust, were delicacies for ordinary demons. It was a demon lord personally created by Lin Yuan. Although it also had a desire for souls, it preferred the souls of pure, kind, or virtuous people. According to Lin Yuan, such people were usually called heroes. As long as it continued to slaughter Lin Yuan's enemies, it would quickly become the demon king in the eyes of others. Then, brave warriors with delicious souls would come to crusade against it. As long as it stayed at home, it would be able to obtain an endless supply of food to fill its empty stomach. Therefore, Diablo would not refuse any orders from Lin Yuan. Although it was already a demon king, it was still not a demon king in the eyes of humans, so it did not receive the crusade of the brave ones. And if it failed to complete the task given by Lin Yuan, it meant that Lin Yuan would not mobilize it or even the demon army for battle in the future. That way, it would not be able to become a demon king and obtain the souls of the brave ones. For Diablo, this was the cruelest punishment. For Diablo, who was inexperienced, if he could not complete the task given by Lin Yuan, he would receive such a cruel punishment. After a while, the chewing sound stopped. Diablo slowly said, "Inform Adelaide to lead my personal army and follow the guidance of my aura. Quickly catch up with my footsteps and prepare to participate in the battle." Diablo did not give the order in advance. As a demon, it knew the nature of demons very well. Greed was a code written in the bones of demons. When it was eating, no matter what its identity was or what order it gave, the demons under its command would ignore it. When its voice fell, Diablo's figure had already disappeared from the trunk. The eyeball demon paused for a while as if it was enjoying the aftertaste of the delicious food. After 3 breaths, it set off to carry out its task. On the other side, in the Willowstone Sea, Lin Yuan suddenly stood up. Light flashed in his heterochromatic eyes. He murmured, "It moved, Diablo." As one of the gods believed in, although he was not as omnipotent as the one in the West who was called omniscient and omnipotent, that guy was not really omnipotent. In the early years, he could not even mingle with the other gods. If it were not for the gradual decline of the faith of the other gods and the outbreak of war among the believers, he would not have been the strongest god in the West. Not only that, but the successive wars of purging the infidels were also recorded in the history books. Obviously, that guy was not strong enough and was afraid that the other gods would take revenge on him after they recovered their divine power. In addition, as the god-king of a god system, he did not confer any titles to his subordinates because he was not strong enough and was afraid that his subordinates would usurp his throne. How could such a weak existence call himself omniscient and omnipotent? But back to the topic, some abilities were indeed universal among the gods. For example, the incarnation of the gods in the mortal world, the creatures formed by the divine thoughts of the gods in the Black Water Dragon King temple that Lin Yuan left in the northern frontier, and the ability to possess devout believers and walk in the name of the gods. Lin Yuan could do all these things. In a sense, even if Lin Yuan returned to the world where he lived in his previous life and could not wrestle with the big shots who had existed since the prehistoric times, it would be easy for him to destroy some weak gods. As a god, Lin Yuan could replace Diablo by descending at any time and personally participate in the war between the Sky Demon and the northern frontier. However, after descending, Diablo's consciousness would disappear. Even if Lin Yuan returned to his original body, he would only be left with an empty shell. This also meant that the entire Devil Army would lose their loyalty to Lin Yuan and become a neutral force entrenched in the Hengduan mountain range. In addition, after losing his consciousness, his original body would become an ordinary black Jiao. If he encountered a hostile existence, he could kill it with a swing of his sword. Lin Yuan did not want to make such a loss-making deal. However, these creatures that were created seemed to be developing rapidly under the intervention of some rules. For example, the gray-scaled flood dragon person only took a few hours from birth to death. If they could not become monsters, they would be a pitiful species that could not even see the sun rise and set. However, this was not the case because the gray-scaled flood dragon person civilization was improving rapidly. From the era where the second generation of flood dragon person did not even have a language, to the era where they were close to cold weapons, the gray-scaled flood dragon person had evolved into a relatively complete civilization system. It was like turbulence suddenly appeared in a certain timeline. In short, the entire gray-scaled flood dragon person was shortening their lifespan to fill the void left by the evolution of the Tianwu continent. From a race that had nothing, they were evolving into a new civilization that was close to the two great civilizations of humans and monsters. Chapter 753. The demons should be in the same situation. Diablo had only been created for less than half a year, but he already had second-generation and third-generation demons under his command. There weren't many second-generation demons, and almost all of them were demons with names. Their strength couldn't be underestimated. The main force and the miscellaneous soldiers were all third-generation demons. There were some strong ones, but there were more weak ones. The first-generation demons that were created at the same time as Diablo had all died in battle. The second-generation demons should be like the gray-scaled flood dragon people, dying of old age as the price for the rapid advancement of the civilization. When creating the gray-scaled flood dragon people, Lin Yuan didn't strengthen their lifespan. In the Tianwu world, even powerful cultivators and demonic beasts could die at any time. Without a certain level of strength, even if they had the lifespan of the heavens and the earth, they couldn't expect to die of old age. Furthermore, the incense power needed to create a long-lived species was very expensive. After all, the spawns created by Lin Yuan were innately his followers. They were taught by their parents and elders when they were young. Even if they didn't become fanatics, they wouldn't reject Lin Yuan's faith. Therefore, they would provide incense power to Lin Yuan every day. Obviously, the rules wouldn't allow Lin Yuan to take advantage of this loophole. As long as he wanted to create a long-lived species, he would have to pay 10 or even 100 times the incense power. The lifespan of a gray-scaled flood dragon person was about the same as a human's. From birth to death, they would only live for 100 years. Due to individual differences, they might not be able to live to 100 years old. There might also be some that had extremely long lifespans. If one wanted to live to 200 or 300 years old, the only way was to walk on the path of cultivation. After successfully cultivating, they would be separated from the rapid advancement of the civilization. Therefore, Lin Yuan only had less than 300 gray-scaled flood dragon people that could fight. However, all of them were intelligent demonic beasts. An existence like Zhao Yi was even close to the level of a mountain lord. In the Hengduan mountain range, it was already a formidable force. Zhao Yi was the king of the gray-scaled flood dragon people. In the Hengduan mountain range, he would be respectfully called the Beast King. He had the qualifications to participate in the Beast King Conference of the Beast King Palace. At the same time, although this level of force was not considered a giant in the Endless Sea, it could not be underestimated. Some of the weaker shops might not even be able to gather such a large number of Wisdom Realm demon beasts. Moreover, with Cyrus the Demon King guarding the shop, as long as nothing unexpected happened, the gray-scaled flood dragon person would be able to occupy a mid-tier position even in the Endless Sea. At the very least, it would be more than enough for him to rule the Willow Stone Ocean. But demons were different. A new type of demon beast that had evolved from the bloodlines of various demon beasts. The demon beast was a well-deserved calamity-grade species. Not only did they have the bloodline power of various demon beasts, they had also been added special abilities by the system and Lin Yuan. The offspring they gave birth to had almost no chance of becoming normal beasts. It could be said that the moment they were born, they would have the cultivation of the spirit awakening realm. What was even more terrifying was the demon beast's reproductive ability. Just like demon beasts, a demon beast could give birth to at least 10 little demons in a single birth. Demons of a special breed could even give birth to hundreds of little demons in a single birth. Moreover, their growth period was extremely short. In just half a month, the little demons would become adult demons. Other than their terrifying reproductive ability, demons were also born with long lifespans. Even if they did not cultivate, a demon beast was guaranteed to have a lifespan of at least 300 to 500 years. Moreover, once they were born with cultivation, their lifespan would increase even further. In the Tianwu world, cultivation did not increase one's lifespan based on years. For example, if a normal human could live up to 100 years old, then after becoming a cultivator, their lifespan would directly double. After that, it would increase one's lifespan based on their bloodline. In this kind of situation, even a second-generation demon beast could die of old age. From this, one could see how terrifying the advancement of civilization was. One day for a species in the advancement of civilization could be equivalent to several hundred years. Lin Yuan's previous world belonged to a civilization that only started counting after leaving the Great Desolate World. As the oldest Chinese civilization, it only had a record of 5,000 years. For a species in the advancement of civilization, it would only be 10 or so days. Sir, there is a River Lord Sea Demon outside. He says he wants to see you. The door to the room was slowly pushed open. Zhao Yisan, who was wearing a coral armor, walked in. His gray eyes faintly flickered with a cold light, as if he was extremely dissatisfied with the sea demon outside. In this period of time, there were actually quite a number of sea demons that had invaded the Willowstone region. They had provided Zhao Yisan, who had stepped onto the path of cultivation, with a large amount of experience. Although the sea demon civilization was rapidly advancing, The amount of Joss flames was still calculated according to Lin Yuan's timeline. Every day at midnight, it would be calculated according to the number of Joss flames. If it was not for the lack of Joss flames, with the experience Zhao Yixin had accumulated, he would have been able to step into the River Lord realm. Although he would still be an unremarkable pawn in the Endless Sea, he would have the qualifications to step onto the battlefield. The current Zhao Yixin was still stuck at the peak of the Wisdom realm. It was only by relying on the various abilities of the sea demons that he could be said to be unrivaled in the same realm. Even if a River Lord sea demon beast came out to fight, Zhao Yixin could command the other sea demons to surround and kill it. But now, Zhao Yixin was clearly dissatisfied with that River Lord sea demon beast, yet he did not explode. Instead, he obediently came to report to Lin Yuan. Clearly, the sea demon outside had some background. Willowstone Sea Region Lord, Black Water Dragon King, why are you still not coming out to greet this envoy? Without waiting for Lin Yuan to open his mouth, a somewhat arrogant voice sounded. Lin Yuan was slightly startled. He laughed involuntarily and shook his head. He began to understand why Zhao Yixin was unhappy. The demonic beast outside probably came from a powerful force, and its parents were probably not weak sea demons. Even in the world of demonic beasts where the strong preyed on the weak, they still protected this guy well, so it didn't know the dangers of the world. A River Lord sea demon beast dared to act arrogantly in front of Lin Yuan? 7 dragon kings and 9 sons, and they were just like that. 2 8 bitter sin dragons, and they were just like that. Even one of the 4 great ancestral dragons of the 4 seas dragon race would have to obediently bow to Lin Yuan. No matter how powerful the other party's background was, could it be more powerful than the 4 seas dragon race? If the members of the dragon clan of the 4 seas were to contact Lin Yuan, they would not dare to show the slightest arrogance in front of Lin Yuan, even if they were not respectful and submissive. What's your background? Lin Yuan glanced at Zhao Yixin from the corner of his eyes. The sea demon beast should have introduced itself, and Zhao Yixin should know the faction behind it. Otherwise, according to Zhao Yixin's temper, that River Lord sea demon beast outside should have been torn to shreds by now. Chapter 754. Dragon Palace, the young chief of the brave crab race, a branch of the crab general bloodline. Flood Dragon 1 lowered his head slightly, and his expression was a little unpleasant. He said in a low voice, "The territory of the brave crab race is only 150,000 miles away from the Willowstone territorial waters. If it's a river lord, it doesn't even need to use the underwater teleportation formation. It can cross the distance within a day with its physical strength alone. It's considered one of the biggest threats near the Willowstone territorial waters." Threat? Lin Yuan's eyelids twitched slightly. The gray-scaled flood dragon people civilization was advancing rapidly, and more demonic beasts were born. Almost all of them had combat strength that could be ranked at the top of the wisdom perception realm. In addition, there was a demon king like Cyrus holding the fort. It seemed like the brave crab race was not simple to deal with. The low to mid-level combat strength of the brave crab race isn't strong. With our current strength, we can definitely deal with them. However, the brave crab race has 3 demon kings holding the fort. The current chief is even a mid-stage demon king. It's said that he's also a titled demon king. The demonic beasts in the nearby territorial waters call him Iron Man. As if seeing Lin Yuan's confusion, Flood Dragon 1 cleared his throat and took the initiative to introduce the threat of the brave crab race. That's indeed a little tricky. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. A cold glint flashed across his eyes, but it was quickly concealed. The Dragon Palace's subordinates were not qualified to be taken seriously by him. Unless many of them formed an alliance, that level of power would be a headache even for the Dragon Palaces of the 4 seas, let alone him. Titled demon kings were also not in Lin Yuan's concern. He had the method to contact Tao Tai. As long as he didn't encounter any ancestral demon realm experts or awakened ancient gods, titled demon kings would just be food for Tao Tai. However, the aforementioned situation was only against Lin Yuan when he was alone. Now that the gray-scaled flood dragon people had established themselves in the Willowstone territorial waters and started to multiply, if he attracted the hostility of some powerful tribes, Lin Yuan could easily escape. However, all the efforts he had put in before would instantly turn to dust. Boom! The brave crab race's young chief seemed to have a bad temper. In just a short while, he actually attacked. Lin Yuan's eye of God's perception and saw that two gray-scaled flood dragon people passing by were directly smashed into meat paste. You're courting death. Dark red lines of blood instantly filled Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes, and a suffocating baleful aura suddenly spread out. Although he didn't know what the purpose of the brave crab tribe was, it was most likely an attempt to get on good terms with Lin Yuan. After all, the matter of the deformed creatures was not a secret in the Endless Sea. It was impossible for the Sea Demon faction, which had 3 Devil Kings, to not know anything about it. However, compared to the other large factions with deep foundations, the Brave Crab Tribe, which was a medium-sized faction, was undoubtedly worried that the Endless Sea's allied forces would not be able to defeat the deformed creatures. Therefore, they contacted Lin Yuan in advance to see if there was a possibility of landing on the Sky Martial continent. However, it was clear that the Brave Crab clan didn't understand their young master well enough. As the father god of the gray-scaled flood dragon people, Lin Yuan could use a high and mighty attitude to look down on all living things. Even if an elder like Jiao Yi died in battle, Lin Yuan's heart would not be moved in the slightest. However, to Lin Yuan, these gray-scaled flood dragon people were no different from his children. Encountering such an unexpected calamity, it was easy to imagine what Lin Yuan's mood was right now. Just like when there was a war between countries, although parents were worried that their children would die on the battlefield, if that day really came, the parents would still be proud of their children who died on the battlefield, showing off to others that their children were heroes. However, if their children died in front of them without any illness or disaster, once the parents' grief and indignation exploded, it would be a terrifying power that could change the heavens and earth. Dragon King, you can't. Jiao Yi flashed in front of Lin Yuan and said hurriedly, "Right now our foundation is still shallow. If we're not careful, we might lose everything. Father God, please consider the big picture and don't start a war." As the earliest gray-scaled flood dragon person to survive until now, Jiao Yi naturally became the king of the gray-scaled flood dragon people. Even Lin Yuan, the existence who created the gray-scaled flood dragon people, couldn't possibly understand the gray-scaled flood dragon people better than Jiao Yi. Right now, the gray-scaled flood dragon people's aging speed was gradually slowing down. This meant that the advancement of culture had reached its limit. Perhaps after a while, the normal gray-scaled flood dragon people would be able to return to the normal timeline. This was the most crucial moment. If they encountered any setback, the advancement of the entire civilization might greatly regress, or even end prematurely. This was not a small matter. The gray-scaled flood dragon people were able to quickly develop their own civilization after eating the benefits of this rapid advancement of their civilization. They researched various equipment, technology, words, and even languages that were suitable for the gray-scaled flood dragon people. Naturally, the longer this process took, the better. If there was even a slight mistake, they might fall behind other civilizations by thousands or even tens of thousands of years. That was the true timeline. Who knew if the gray-scaled flood dragon people would still exist 10,000 years later? Apart from the dragon race of the 4 seas, this world also had no lack of powerful monster races. However, most of them had already been drowned out by the river of time. They barely left behind some legends, or even no legends at all. For example, although the whale race that was once the overlord of the Endless Sea still existed in this world, it was no different from being extinct. Father God, the king cannot be rash. This is the teaching you have given me. Seeing that Lin Yuan was still emitting a shocking murderous aura, Jiao Yi silently lowered his head. The scales on his face trembled slightly. Clearly, with his strength, it was very difficult for him to directly face Lin Yuan's murderous aura. "You are wrong." Lin Yuan shook his head and said in a deep voice, "The king cannot be rash. This saying is correct. However, there is another saying, which is that the king cannot be humiliated. Today, the young master of the brave crab race casually killed 2 gray-scaled flood dragon people. If you swallow this anger, you can indeed avoid a war. However, have you ever thought about how the other sea monster races will view you in the future?" Jiao Yi was slightly startled. Clearly, he did not think that Lin Yuan would overturn his own teachings. "I am not overturning what I have taught you. I am only telling you about another choice. I cannot stay in the Endless Sea forever. Sooner or later, you will have to face the storm here alone. Today, you lowered your head in fear of the brave crab race's power. If something similar happens in the future, are you going to continue to lower your head and pretend to be an obedient child?" Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and said sincerely, As a king, it is very good that you can consider for your race and abandon your own personal feelings. However, you have to think carefully about whether or not what you have done today will bring disaster to your entire race in the future. Chapter 755. A future disaster? Flood Dragon 1 chewed on this word, then shook his head heavily. He said in a deep voice, "That won't happen. Once the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people pass through this period of civilization explosion, Flood Dragon 1 will definitely pay them a visit one by one and make them pay the price for humiliating us today in blood." You can indeed do that, but that's a matter for the future. Lin Yuan's aura was oppressive. He said in a deep voice, "However, you gave in today. If this matter spreads, who will think that the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people you command are a race that has the right to speak with them on equal terms? They will think that the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people are weak. No matter what happens when you need to work together, the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people will always be the ones that suffer the most, but receive the least benefits." Speaking to this point, Lin Yuan paused, then said with a serious expression, "Flood Dragon 1, in the end, you are the king of the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people, so I respect your opinion. If you're willing to endure it, I can treat it as if I didn't see anything and go out to communicate with them after calming my emotions. However, if that's the case, that's the same as me cutting off my own throne." Flood Dragon 1's voice suddenly rang out, interrupting Lin Yuan's explanation. There were many things that a qualified king needed to do. If one of them wanted to live, and thought that they were doing it for the sake of the race's future, then the race would have no future at all. "Thank you for your teachings, Father." Flood Dragon 1 flipped his right hand and a trident made of sea silver appeared in his hand. He said in a deep voice, "However, there is no need for Father to do anything about this. Please allow me, the king of the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people, to lead the race and use the blood of the brave crab race to wash away the shame that has yet to become a brand." Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Flood Dragon 1 also nodded slightly. Soon after, he walked out of the room again. However, the expression on his face was no longer as dissatisfied and gloomy as when he first came in. Instead, it was replaced with a hint of determination. As expected, the Dragon King's way of ruling is different from the rest. Cyrus' voice slowly rang out. A moment later, Cyrus with an octopus head slowly appeared from the shadow behind Lin Yuan. He said in confusion, "However, I don't really understand the meaning behind the Dragon King's actions. You've established many different forces. The monster tribes in the Hungduan Mountains were given to men Du, Na Qin, Batu, and Wan Yu. The forces in the northern frontier were given to the human faction led by Li Zhong. You've also given the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people with outstanding potential, such as this. I can't understand." It did not seem right to say that Lin Yuan was indifferent to fame and wealth and had no interest in power. The Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce had taken root in the various empires and continuously absorbed the blood of the empires to strengthen itself. The forces in the northern frontier and the monster tribes in the Hungduan Mountains worked together to stabilize the position and power of the northern frontier. The power in Lin Yuan's hands grew stronger day by day. The appearance of the gray-scaled Flood Dragon people also proved that Lin Yuan did not hide his greed for the endless sea. How could a person who constantly strengthened his power not care about power? If that was the case, why were there so many factions in the northern frontier? Why did the monster tribes in the Stoneclaw Forest not expand to new territories after being armed by the northern frontier? Instead, they continuously fed the northern frontier as if they wanted to use time to close the gap between the humans and the monster tribes so that both sides could advance at the same time, making it easier for him to control them. Do you want to be king? If you do, I can help you. Lin Yuan let out a long sigh and asked without even turning his head. Cyrus was slightly stunned. It clearly did not expect Lin Yuan's reply to be this. Being a king is very tiring, especially a king who expands a territory. Don't be fooled by the power in their hands. They are all pitiful creatures. Some kings have not even taken half a step out of the capital in their entire lives. Yet, they still pursue the beautiful dream of ruling. I gave them power and made them kings not because I want them to be puppets. Instead, I really hope that they can become qualified kings. Compared to managing a large territory, I prefer to manage these kings directly. It is much easier to make them loyal to me than to make everyone loyal to me. Therefore, I don't need to spend any money to make countless outstanding talents manage my territory for me. I only need to be a hands-off manager and enjoy all the fruits of their hard work. Of course, if something happens to my territory, these kings will not be able to escape responsibility. However, as the one who gave them power, I am still an unshakable god in their hearts. They will look forward to me electing a new king. No matter who the king is, the principle of a king being bestowed by a god will never change. And I am that god. Lin Yuan did not intend to play riddles with Cyrus, who was at most a second-rate sage. He could see that Cyrus was tempted. When this fellow saw that Lin Yuan gave freedom to Li Zhong and Zhao Yi, he developed some thoughts that he should not have. What Lin Yuan needed to do was to lay all his cards on the table and dispel those thoughts. Otherwise, it would be a big problem. Cyrus' breathing paused for a moment. He opened his mouth but did not say anything. It was not difficult to become a king under Lin Yuan's command. However, everything he did was to provide Lin Yuan with fruits that he could pluck at will. Moreover, if something went wrong, he would be swiftly killed by Lin Yuan and replaced with a suitable king. This was not the life he wanted. Seeing the obvious resistance in Cyrus' eyes, Lin Yuan curled his lips imperceptibly but did not say anything. A second-rate wise man was indeed a second-rate wise man. Not to mention those people who had left their mark in the history books in his memory. Even Li Zhong, a commoner who had soared to the heavens after being recognized by him, could not compare to him. Using the system's words, even when dreaming, you must have a sense of propriety. Cyrus wanted to gain benefits from Lin Yuan without giving anything in return. How could there be such a good deal? In just a short while, the battle outside had ended. The door to the room was pushed open again and Cyrus once again hid in Lin Yuan's shadow. Zhao Yi, who was covered in blood, held his trident upside down and a pair of huge white crab claws in his hands. He bowed and said while panting, "Father, we've taken down the brave crab tribe's young master who dared to challenge the gray-scaled flood dragon person's dignity. I personally cut off the claws that hurt the gray-scaled flood dragon person. However, he said that he must see you. Even if he died, he wanted to pass on his father's words to you. Therefore, I was bold enough to spare his life." Lin Yuan nodded slightly, smiled and encouraged. "Well done, drag it in. I hope your behavior has taught it what kind of etiquette it should have in the face of the existence it can't afford to provoke." Chapter 756. Young Patriarch of the Brave Crab Clan, how should I address you? Lin Yuan stood in the middle of the hall with his body coiled up. There was no joy or sadness in his eyes as he coldly stared at the young Patriarch of the Brave Crab Clan, whose hands had been cut off by Flood Dragon 1. Although his pincers had been cut off, in order to make it easier for Lin Yuan to communicate with him without losing blood, Flood Dragon 1 had someone bandage his wounds before dragging him into the room. However, the young patriarch's complexion was clearly not very good. Monster beasts were creatures that lived by the law of the jungle. After losing his pincers, he was equivalent to trash. Even if his father was the patriarch of the Brave Crab Clan, this would not change. What's more, he was not his father's only son. From today onwards, all the glory and privileges of the past would be separated from him. If he could not complete the task given by his father, he was afraid that he would no longer have a foothold in the Brave Crab Clan. Even if his father and the elders did not punish him, his brothers and sisters would not let him off easily. "Are you deaf or mute?" Flood Dragon 1, who was standing on the side, had a change in expression. He stepped forward and kicked the young patriarch to the ground, coldly saying, "Our Dragon King is asking you a question." As a fanatic personally created by Lin Yuan, Flood Dragon 1 did not dare to say that he could empathize with Lin Yuan. However, when he approached Lin Yuan, he could vaguely feel the emotions emitted by Lin Yuan. For some reason, the father god seemed to be somewhat restless recently. It could even be said that he was restless. Although Flood Dragon 1 did not know what had happened, from the killing intent emitted by Lin Yuan before, he was afraid that the great father god had encountered a big trouble that could not be solved in a short time. Therefore, his mood was extremely bad. In this case, if he made a mistake in his judgment and caused the father god's mood to worsen, that would be a sin. "I don't have a name. Let Dragon King call me whatever you want." The young patriarch smiled sinisterly. He crawled up from the ground as if nothing had happened and said in a deep voice, "I came here today on my father's orders to establish diplomatic relations with the Willow Rock Sea region. I hope that Dragon King can help me in the future, lest my Brave Crab Clan go to the end of the road." This? Zhao Yi was slightly stunned. He did not expect that the young patriarch would tell Lin Yuan this. Was there something wrong with his head? They wanted to establish diplomatic relations with the Willow Rock Sea region, yet they still had to put on a high and mighty attitude. If they were slightly dissatisfied, they would directly kill the gray-scaled flood dragon people who passed by. After he finished talking, Lin Yuan looked at the young patriarch with a strange face and said doubtfully, "Although this king is not a beast from the endless sea, establishing diplomatic relations and being kind to each other shouldn't be your attitude, right? Are you sure you're not here to represent the brave crab tribe and declare war on my Willow Rock Sea region?" That's exactly what my father meant. The young patriarch squeezed out a bitter smile on his face. Although this expression was very ferocious from the perspective of a demonic beast's face, Lin Yuan was slightly stunned. Zhao Yi's body suddenly emitted a burst of cold intent. The brave crab tribe's patriarch meant to establish good relations with the Willow Rock Sea region and think of ways to curry favor with Lin Yuan. If the demonic beasts of the Endless Sea were to really lose to the aberrations, they would be able to settle down in the Sky Martial continent through their relationship with Lin Yuan. As for the aberrations, they would naturally be dealt with by the guardians of the Heavenly Gate. As long as they could survive the first wave of calamity and preserve their tribe, there would definitely be no problems. However, this young patriarch was obviously confident to the point of conceit. He did not even take his father's words to heart. Instead, he barged into the Willow Rock Sea region with a tyrannical attitude. His meaning was self-evident. He wanted to subdue the gray-scaled flood dragon people for his own use. This was looking down on them. Even if they were from the same sea region, this young patriarch of the brave crab tribe still looked down on the gray-scaled flood dragon people. It could even be said that the majority of the brave crab tribe had the same attitude. The only difference was that the brave crab tribe's patriarch was smarter. He knew that Lin Yuan was an existence that he could not afford to offend. In the end, the current gray-scaled flood dragon people were still too weak. They were so weak that the other sea demon tribes did not even take the gray-scaled flood dragon people seriously. "I understand. You can go back," Lin Yuan said indifferently. Demonic beasts and humans were two different systems. Their level of civilization could not be lumped together. Just like how there were barbarians in the human race who were especially backward, demonic beasts were the same. Demonic beasts with powerful bloodlines had a higher level of civilization. Their descendants would have their own names when they were born. For example, the Four Seas Dragon tribe had the surname Ao, which was similar to humans' names. However, demonic beasts with ordinary bloodlines did not have such treatment. They usually did not have names. Only when their cultivation reached the mid-stage demonic king realm and they had a rather outstanding battle record would they be bestowed with a title, which was the title of titled demonic king. For example, the brave crab tribe's patriarch, Tai Qian, was like this. His title was his name. Although the brave crab tribe's young patriarch's background was not bad, even his father could only barely obtain a title. Naturally, he did not have a name. From this point of view, the level of civilization of the outer sea demonic beasts seemed to be higher than that of the deep sea demonic beasts. In other words, the demonic beasts in the outer sea were closer to human civilization. They had a strict social hierarchy and system. Even ordinary demonic beasts could have their own names. However, the demonic beasts in the deep sea region, going back thousands of years, were almost all slaves under the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Under such a system, only slaves who had made contributions would be bestowed with names. In such a slave system, strength was always the deciding factor. Lin Yuan did not think about the influence of the environment on these deep-sea demonic beasts. However, he figured it out now. In his original plan, there was no problem in using the power of those speculators to quickly push the gray-scaled flood dragon people to the top of the deep-sea demonic beasts' food chain. However, the biggest problem was that the speculators gathered together because Lin Yuan was one of the Endless Sea's escape routes. They might curry favor with Lin Yuan, but they would not curry favor with the gray-scaled flood dragon people. There were probably many tribes like the brave crab tribe. Then, he could only kill them. First, he had to kill them and make a name for himself. Then, he would talk about the cooperation in the future. Lin Yuan did not wish for the gray-scaled flood dragon people to be destroyed when he left the Endless Sea. Then, wouldn't all the effort he had put in be a joke? Dragon King. Dragon King, what do you mean? The young patriarch's expression was blank, as if he did not understand Lin Yuan's meaning. He said in a deep voice, I came here alone. However, the diplomatic group and various gifts prepared by my father are on the way. They will arrive at the Willowstone Ocean in no time. I hope that the Dragon King can give me an accurate answer. My brave crab tribe is willing to honor you. This trump card could either rapidly increase the strength of the gray-scaled flood dragon people, allowing them to become a sea demon race that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the brave crab race, or it could be an extremely destructive existence that could easily wipe out a sea demon race at the level of the brave crab race. Although both possibilities were ridiculous, the young patriarch was more willing to believe than the latter possibility. Either Lin Yuan could rapidly increase the strength of the gray-scaled flood dragon people, or the gray-scaled flood dragon people had been hiding their strength all along. This tribe that seemed to have appeared out of thin air was not inferior to the brave crab race's battle prowess from the beginning to the end. Today, he had come to demonstrate his strength, which was equivalent to falling into Lin Yuan's trap. This sinister black Jiao had probably been looking for a target for a long time and wanted to use a bloody battle to establish the reputation of the gray-scaled flood dragon people, right? Although the brave crab race wasn't made of mud, the gray-scaled flood dragon people would definitely go all out in the battle to establish their reputation. In order to ensure that their tribe could continue to reproduce, the gray-scaled flood dragon people would invest as much battle prowess as they had. No sea demon tribe would choose such an opponent. Even the Four Seas Dragon Palace had to avoid this kind of new sea demon tribe that was trying to establish their position as the overlord. It was because these people really didn't care about their lives. You don't have to worry about that, young patriarch. Zhao Yi waved his hand with a cold expression and said in a deep voice, I won't be sending young patriarch off. Remember, the next time we meet, we will be mortal enemies. The young patriarch's body trembled and he turned around to leave in a daze. He didn't even know how he walked out of Willowstone region's territory. However, when he came back to his senses, he was already a long distance away from Willowstone region. The diplomatic group that was prepared had even appeared in his line of sight. Young patriarch. A brave crab race member flew forward and asked with a shocked expression, You? What happened to you? Previously, the young patriarch said that he wanted to go to Willowstone region to meet the Blackwater Dragon King. When he expressed his goodwill to the Blackwater Dragon King, although he felt that it was inappropriate, he still nodded and agreed. After all, this young patriarch's talent was extraordinary. If he didn't fall prematurely, sooner or later, he would become an expert comparable to his father, or even more outstanding. With such a noble young patriarch taking the first step, he thought that Willowstone region would also feel the goodwill of the brave crab race. However, he didn't expect that after a period of time, the young patriarch had a dazed look. The symbolic giant pincers of the brave crab race had also disappeared. It seemed to have been cut off by someone, and even the wound had been bandaged. One must know that the brave crab race was just like their name. The strongest thing about them was their monstrous strength, and the thing that could emit this powerful strength was their innate giant pincers. Even compared to other crab race branches, the brave crab race's pincers were huge. Even if they didn't use any weapons, they were like two heavy hammers. But now, the pincers that represented almost 80% of the brave crab race's combat power were cut off. With such an injury, unless the elders were willing to take out some precious spiritual items to assist the young patriarch in regrowing his severed limbs, the young patriarch would be crippled. Is it the work of those pirates who wander around the various seas? Tell third uncle, where did the demonic beast that cut off your pincers go? Third uncle will personally take revenge for you. This brave crab race member was actually a demonic king. Although he wasn't the patriarch that had a title, he was merely going to Willowstone region to express goodwill to a new sea demon race. It could already be said that he was condescending and lowering his status. It also indirectly expressed the brave crab race's determination to be on good terms with Lin Yuan. As for the pirates he spoke of, they were a group of demonic beasts unique to the Endless Sea. They didn't have a specific race, but they were all criminals who had committed heinous crimes and didn't have the qualifications to enter various seas to live peacefully. Usually, they would always attack the sea demons passing by, plundering the resources of other sea demons to strengthen themselves. Places like Willowstone region where order had collapsed previously were considered a paradise for pirates. Especially since the gray-scaled flood dragon person's strength wasn't enough to deal with them, so there were quite a lot of pirates in the vicinity. Only when the gray-scaled flood dragon person had completely stabilized his rule and started to clear out the surrounding pirates, would the majority of them resentfully leave the sea region and head to a more chaotic sea region to live? Chapter 758. Third uncle, I seem to have messed up. The young chieftain slowly raised his head. His face was filled with regret and fear that couldn't be concealed. Third uncle was slightly startled. It was obvious that he didn't expect his nephew, who was once arrogant, would actually take the initiative to admit his mistake one day. Thump. Third uncle's heart abruptly sank. This wasn't a good sign. Gulp. Third uncle gently swallowed a mouthful of saliva and probed. Child, your pincers couldn't have been severed by that mysterious demon king overseeing the Willow Rock Oceanic region, right? You should know what we are going to do this time. The chieftain should have also told you what it means to be on good terms with the Black Jiao to our brave crab race, right? I met the Black Water Dragon King. The young chieftain hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, furthermore, I also expressed our brave crab race's goodwill. However, the Black Water Dragon King said that our brave crab race was just a bunch of trash and didn't have the qualifications to form an alliance with the Willow Rock Oceanic region. He even ordered his subordinates to besiege me and sever my pincers. He said he had his eyes on our territory and would soon officially declare war on us. He wanted to conquer our brave crab race and make us his slaves. Now that things had come to this, it was useless to be cowardly. If he stuck his head out, he would still be stabbed. He might as well fabricate a lie to cover up his mistake. Anyway, the brave crab race's envoys didn't even officially step into the Willow Rock Oceanic region, let alone meet the Black Water Dragon King. By the time the gray-scaled flood dragon person took the initiative to declare war, they wouldn't have the chance to ask about the details. By then, both parties would have already become mortal enemies. If the brave crab race could believe his words, he still had a way out. He only needed to ask his father to bestow a fey to repair the damage caused by his pincers being severed. In the future, he would still be the young chieftain of the brave crab race, second only to one person. Third uncle's breathing became sluggish. His eyes were a little dull as he murmured, this shouldn't be the case. The patriarch said that the Black Jiao was expressing his stance. He hoped to choose a group of demonic beasts from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas to support him. Then, he would defeat the aberrations and seize the opportunity to overthrow the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Even if the Endless Sea lost the war in the end, with our relationship with the Black Jiao, we could still gain a foothold in the Sky Martial continent. At this point, third uncle suddenly came back to his senses and said sternly, Kid, did you do something to offend the Black Water Dragon King? That's why he was so angry that he cut off your pincers and even implicated the brave crab tribe. As the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father. As the three patriarchs who had watched the young patriarch grow up, they also knew what kind of temperament this young man had. For the patriarch to be able to obtain a title and even lead the brave crab tribe to develop better and better in the Endless Sea, he must be a powerful and wise patriarch. Since he took the initiative to speak, then it couldn't be wrong. It must be that this kid didn't suppress his arrogant nature and angered the Black Water Dragon King. Now, the entire tribe would be implicated because of this. If they let this matter go like this and let them return home with their tails between their legs, announcing the news that the gray-scaled flood dragon person was about to start a war with them, not to mention this kid who ruined the plans of the brave crab tribe, even this demonic king elder wouldn't have a good ending. At the very least, he would be sent to the vanguard of the war as cannon fodder. Third uncle, you don't believe me? The young patriarch's breathing turned sluggish, but he reacted quickly. With teary eyes he said, I didn't do anything to anger the Black Jiao. It's all because that Black Jiao needs a stepping stone to establish the illustrious reputation of the gray-scaled flood dragon person. We just happened to deliver ourselves to its doorstep, that's why it targeted us. Speaking until here, the young patriarch's tone was already filled with grief and indignation. He roared, Fine, if you don't believe me, then I won't return to the tribe. I will die here to prove my sincerity. As soon as he finished speaking, the young patriarch actually jumped up and slammed into a huge corpse nearby, as if he wanted to kill himself. Third uncle's eyes flashed. This kid was exposed. As the most outstanding member of the brave crab tribe's new generation, the young patriarch could be said to have fulfilled all of his requests. As long as there was something he was interested in, the brave crab tribe would help him get it regardless of the cost. Usually, This young patriarch loved to read all kinds of unofficial histories made up by humans the most. This show of using death to prove one's sincerity was not unfamiliar to him. It could be seen in many similar books. It was one of the common methods humans used to prove their innocence. To humans, it was indeed not difficult to kill themselves. But what were they? They were the brave crab tribe. They were demonic beasts that were famous for their strength. In order to carry such monstrous strength, their physical strength was even more terrifying. Not only would the young patriarch not kill himself, he could even directly smash that huge rock at the bottom of the sea. After all, that was just an ordinary rock and not some precious metal mine. If the demonic beasts wanted to commit suicide, they had countless methods. Even the most simple self-explosion of the demonic core was more effective. Why would they use this kind of weak human act to deceive him? Third uncle stretched out his pincers and directly blocked in front of the young patriarch. A hint of joy flashed in the young patriarch's eyes. He thought to himself. Usually, when he read those unofficial histories, the elders in the tribe always advised him not to lose his will. But today, using the strategy recorded in the book seemed to be unexpectedly useful. Kid, third uncle is not an outsider. Third uncle watched you grow up. If you continue to deceive third uncle, then I can only give up this diplomatic mission. When I return to the tribe, I will report the details of this diplomatic mission to your father, including you leaving the diplomatic mission in advance to go to the Wuxia Sea area. Now, you are acting in front of me, trying to cover up your wrong behavior. I will give you one last chance. If you tell third uncle the truth, third uncle can help you think of a way to repair our relationship with the Wuxia Sea area. If you don't want to, then we will go home now. No matter how your father wants to punish you, don't expect third uncle to plead for you. After third uncle finished speaking, he retracted his pincers. His face was full of disappointment. It seemed that he was quite disappointed with his nephew's behavior of treating him as an outsider to deceive him. Third uncle, I did make a mistake. I just feel that you and father think too highly of the Wuxia Sea area. It's just a mere gray-scaled flood dragon person. It's already not bad to receive the goodwill of our brave crab tribe. Don't even talk about forming an alliance with us. No, it can't even be considered an alliance. Father's intention is to have us become the Black Jiao's subordinates and listen to the Black Jiao's commands. Seeing that his third uncle who watched him grow up had already exposed him, the young patriarch no longer had the intention to continue pretending. Chapter 759. That's why you want to prove yourself and use the brave crab tribe's influence to suppress the gray-scaled flood dragon person. You hope that this group of sea fiend tribe that you think is weak will submit to you. That way, when you go back and report to your father will definitely treat you differently. Not only will he stabilize your status as the successor of the brave crab tribe, he will also reward you, right? A cold glint flashed past third uncle's eyes, but he did not explode. Instead, he asked. That is indeed what I am thinking. Since he had already said that, there was no point in continuing the act. The young tribe leader said calmly, Third uncle, do you know what that Black Jiao asked me when it saw me? It asked me how to address it. Forget about me, a demonic beast that has not even reached the demonic king realm. Even if it was you, third uncle, how would you answer it? At this point, an ambitious expression appeared on the young tribe leader's face. He said solemnly, What I want to inherit is not only the brave crab tribe, I also want to inherit my father's title. When my father dies of old age, I will be the new Tai-O. You? Third uncle looked at the young tribe leader dumbfoundedly. He did not know what to say for a moment. The humans in the Sky Martial continent, even if their lives were worthless, all had their own names. In the outer seas that were not under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, as long as the demonic beasts were from a powerful tribe, they would also have their own names. But in the deep sea that was under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, as long as the demonic beasts did not have a publicly recognized battle record to obtain the title bestowed by the Dragon Palace, if the demonic beasts dared to name themselves or their descendants, they would all be labeled as traitors. The best outcome was to be exiled to the outer seas, or be imprisoned in the underwater prison forever, or even be killed on the spot. Not having a name was not only the young tribe leader's obsession. Even he, a demonic king, did not have a name. Lin Yuan's previous question had indeed deeply hurt these Dragon Palace subordinates. Third uncle, help me this once. A mere gray-scaled flood dragon person is nothing to our brave crab tribe. To us, there is no possibility of losing this war. Let's go back now. You can cooperate with me and say that the Black Jiao has no intention of forming an alliance with us and wants to use us as a stepping stone for the gray-scaled flood dragon person to establish his might. As long as you say it, Father will definitely believe it. In the future, when I inherit the position of team leader, you will be the Grand Elder. I guarantee that second uncle's position will definitely be inferior to yours. Furthermore, apart from this matter, I can also guarantee that a portion of the spirit items bestowed by my father will be given to your children without affecting my cultivation. The young patriarch's eyes were filled with eagerness, as if he was certain that his third uncle would accept his conditions. Alas! Third uncle sighed softly. He looked at the young patriarch as if he was looking at a corpse. Third uncle, what is the meaning of your gaze? Seeing that his third uncle's expression was not right, the young patriarch suddenly panicked. What a pity! Your father was the most outstanding one among us brothers back then. Therefore, when father gave the position of patriarch to him, not only did second brother and I not feel jealous, we even felt that it was very normal. For so many years, countless opportunities were placed in front of second brother and me, but we did not cross that line. This is because we are very clear that the brave crab tribe is the incomparably powerful brave crab tribe in your father's hands. In our hands, it is merely a dragon palace tribe that is content to stay in a corner. Later on, with you juniors, I have to admit that boss is stronger than us in all aspects, even when it comes to giving birth to children. As the most outstanding one among the new generation of brave crab tribe, if nothing unexpected happens, you will inherit your father's position and continue to lead the brave crab tribe. Us old fellows will also guide our own juniors and assist you in the future. Before we die, we will also pave the path for you and send you into the Demon King realm, allowing you to obtain your own title. But unfortunately, from today's perspective, you, the most outstanding junior, is nothing more than this. Perhaps, it is because we have protected you too well all these years? You don't even know the immensity of heaven and earth. Third uncle suddenly made a move and slapped the young patriarch with his pincer. He said with a cold face, "What kind of existence is the Black Water Dragon King? Even your father has to be careful to show his goodwill. If it wasn't for him personally going to the front line of the Dragon Palace to see if the aberrant is as terrifying as the Black Water Dragon King said, you and I wouldn't even have a turn to go on this diplomatic mission." Father, it's impossible. You are lying to me. Father is invincible. He is the strongest warrior of the brave crab tribe. He will not bow to any demon beast. The young patriarch seemed to have been overthrown in his heart for many years. He lay on the ground with no intention of getting up. He just shouted hysterically and tried to refute, but he couldn't come up with any evidence. He could only emphasize that his father was a warrior. The conditions you proposed just now are indeed very tempting. I don't want to replace your father in this life and sit on the patriarch's throne. But after so many years, second brother has always been above me. I am indeed unconvinced. As for your cultivation resources, I am indeed envious. Your father has high hopes for you. He is willing to find an excuse to reward you with almost all the good things. If I can get the resources in your hands, even if it is just a little bit, my child won't be stuck at the peak of the wisdom state and can't be inferior to the Riverlord state for more than 10 years. Your father has given you a lot of resources, but second brother and I have no objections. We have seen more demon beasts in our lives than we have eaten food. We are very clear that whether a tribe is strong or not never depends on the number of experts in the tribe, but on the realm of the strongest expert in the tribe. Do you know why the brave crab tribe can develop to today's stage? Because of your father's existence. All the nearby sea demon tribes know how terrifying your father is. Once they attack the brave crab tribe, it means that they have to face your father's anger. Because of this, we also hope that you can become an expert on par with your father. When we can no longer fight for the tribe, you can continue to protect the tribe. Third uncle gently shook his head and sighed. It's still the same words. What a pity. You won't have such treatment in the future because of the mistake you made today. Now you should pay for your mistake. Speaking until here, third uncle silently took 2 steps back and turned his head to look in the direction of the diplomatic group. You all heard what it said just now. What are you still standing there for? Tie this criminal up and bring him along. I want to use its blood to wash away the anger of the Black Water Dragon King to ensure that my brave crab tribe won't attract a calamity of extinction. Chapter 760. Third Uncle, you can't do this. If my father finds out. The young patriarch's face was ashen as he tried to make a final struggle. At least 80% of the brave crab tribe's battle power was based on their huge pincers, and the remaining 20% was their hard shell that could ignore most attacks of the same level. Now that they had lost their pincers, they only had defensive power but no offensive means. They couldn't even deal with a brave crab of the same level, let alone their third uncle who was in the Demon King realm. Therefore, the young patriarch was very calm. He didn't explode because of anger and fear. Instead, he showed a calmer attitude than before to deal with his third uncle. In front of a Demon King, he was nothing. The only one who could persuade his third uncle to change his mind was his father who loved him dearly. If your father finds out, he will personally kill you, you unfilial son. The third uncle waved his huge pincers and said coldly, your father isn't just your father. He is the respected patriarch of the entire brave crab tribe. You have made a big mistake that can bring destruction to the tribe. No matter how much he loves you, he will make a choice that is beneficial to the tribe. However, your father will be in pain. In order to avoid this pain, let your third uncle be the bad guy. Having said that, he returned to the envoy group. Without looking at his tied-up nephew, he ordered the entire group to speed up. However, he sighed deeply in his heart. Because of this brat's recklessness, the brave crab tribe was really used as a stepping stone this time. Moreover, they couldn't resist. They could only smile and take this slap. Willow Rock Sea Region, Blackwater Dragon King's temporary residence. Without the knowledge of the brave crab uncle and nephew, Cyrus and Lin Yuan were quietly watching a light screen that was broadcasting images and sounds. This was a little trick that came with the operation of the Eye of God. Lin Yuan had used it when he was at the northern frontier. However, the young patriarch of the brave crab tribe didn't expect Lin Yuan to have such a terrifying perception. After he put in enough demon power, he could observe everything around him in detail and broadcast it through special means even if he didn't leave the house. Wonderful! Cyrus sat beside Lin Yuan with excitement written all over his face and said in a meaningful tone, in the face of a situation that would decide the survival of our race, he instantly broke free from the shackles of kinship and made the right choice. This Demon King of the brave crab race can be considered a ruthless character. That patriarch who made it willing to submit to him is probably even more powerful, right? At this point, it turned its head and looked at the expressionless Lin Yuan beside it. It asked doubtfully, to be honest, even if the gray-scaled flood dragon person has the mentality of perishing together with the brave crab tribe, it's no different from striking a rock with an egg. You also rejected the young clan leader's goodwill so decisively, and even ordered Flood Dragon 1 to prepare for battle. Aren't you worried about losing at all? Will I lose? Lin Yuan turned his head, looked at Cyrus, and asked faintly. However, there wasn't much doubt in Lin Yuan's tone. It was as if he was stating something that was within his expectations and questioning Cyrus' intelligence. It won't happen. Cyrus looked as if it had swallowed a fly as it said with a pale face. The brave crab race's patriarch is willing to put down his pride and befriend you. Not only is it to leave a way out in the event that the Endless Sea is defeated, but it's also because he can see that you will become an important figure in the Endless Sea sooner or later. Previously, he relied on your wings to ensure that the brave crab race wouldn't be wiped out because of this. Who knows? He might be able to take another step forward and become a huge race that can rule over many sea regions. After pausing for a moment, he continued, also their third elder. He would rather abandon his family and detain his nephew, whom he once thought highly of, to apologize to you. Clearly, he is a smart person and has a clear understanding of their patriarch's intentions. Although I haven't met that second elder yet, I can guess that the brave crab tribe might look down on the gray-scaled flood dragon person, but they have a heart of reverence towards you. Therefore, they will do their best to express their goodwill towards you. This unequal war actually couldn't be fought in the first place. Only that burly young patriarch couldn't tell, and actually planned to prepare for war. Good fellow, good fellow. Cyrus looked at the expressionless Lin Yuan and had doubts in its heart. For example, Lin Yuan clearly knew that the gray-scaled flood dragon person wasn't a match for the brave crab race. But he resolutely rejected the young clan leader's friendly gesture and said that he wanted to start a war. Moreover, He really ordered Flood Dragon 1 to prepare for battle and then closely monitored the young clan leader. It was as if things didn't go according to his expectations, this war would really start. However, Lin Yuan didn't have the slightest hint of panic on his face. It was as if the brave crab race was nothing more than this. As a wise man known as the virtuoso, Cyrus rarely admitted that it was inferior to others in terms of intelligence. However, this time, facing Lin Yuan's scheming, Cyrus only felt fear and trepidation. This Black Jiao seemed to be indifferent, but he still held the absolute initiative. It was as if nothing would go wrong. As long as he was willing, things would develop according to his expectations. And that was indeed the case. The brave crab race's friendly gesture was an unexpected situation. If it was the gray-scaled flood dragon person who handled it, it might be a little softer. As long as it could obtain the support of the brave crab race, the gray-scaled flood dragon person would sooner or later stabilize his position as the overlord of the Willow Stone waters. It wasn't impossible for both sides to work together and advance further. However, what about Lin Yuan? His attitude was firm. Yet, he managed to accomplish this matter. He pushed the brave crab race, who had already lowered their stance, into an even lower stance. More importantly, Lin Yuan's attitude and the gray-scaled flood dragon person's reaction would definitely spread. It wouldn't take long for the nearby sea demon clans to know that the brave crab race's young clan leader had his pincers cut off because he provoked the Blackwater Dragon King. After that, the brave crab race's third elder personally bound the young clan leader to apologize. After signing a series of treaties, the brave crab race was practically reduced to a vassal of the gray-scaled flood dragon person. This was a form of demonstration. Even the brave crab race, which had 3 demon kings overseeing it, lowered their heads in front of the Blackwater Dragon King. As for the other sea demon clans that only had 1 demon king, or even none, who would dare to have any ideas about the Willowstone waters? Other than these weak sea demon clans, even the stronger sea demon clans would obviously soften their attitude towards the gray-scaled flood dragon person in the future. After all, they took the initiative to express their goodwill to Lin Yuan, or to attack and occupy the territory of the Willowstone waters. They were all fighting for the benefits of their sea demon clans. If they didn't obtain any benefits and even got themselves into trouble, then they would really be crying without tears. From today onwards, the gray-scaled flood dragon person clan could be considered to have been established in the Endless Sea. Chapter 761. I'm tired. I'm going to rest now. You know how to deal with the brave crab tribe's diplomatic mission, right? Lin Yuan glanced at Cyrus from the corner of his eyes and asked calmly. He was not an omniscient and omnipotent existence after all. When it came to calculating the general direction, he had accumulated all sorts of experiences from his predecessors during the information explosion in his previous life. He was confident that he would not lose to anyone or mystical beast. However, when it came to manipulating people's hearts, he was indeed not as good as Cyrus, the master of fate. Only when Cyrus made contact with the brave crab tribe's diplomatic mission could he maximize the benefits of this scheme. I know what to do. This time, I'll definitely make the brave crab tribe sign an unfair treaty and make them feel smug about it. Cyrus nodded heavily and replied proudly. However, in its heart, it sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Black Jiao, is this also part of your plan? Aren't you a little too amazing? The young chief had already told third uncle about his meeting with Lin Yuan. In terms of time, Lin Yuan could not have suddenly left the Willow Rock waters. Therefore, if he was willing to negotiate, Lin Yuan would personally make contact with the brave crab tribe's diplomatic mission. However, if the Black Jiao did not show up, the brave crab tribe's diplomatic mission would probably start to have doubts. In addition to the gray-scaled flood dragon people outside who were preparing for war and seemed to want to fight to the death with the brave crab tribe, the third elder who was praised by Cyrus would probably be flustered. When that time came, Cyrus would have more room to make demands. Moreover, the entire brave crab tribe's upper echelons were inclined to rely on Lin Yuan's wings. As long as the possibility of being on good terms with Lin Yuan was not low, they would definitely not give up. Moreover, they would not give up on thinking in a moment of anger and really go back to prepare for war with the gray-scaled flood dragon people. War was not a fun thing to do. Simply put, all wars were for the sake of fighting for benefits. Large amounts of resources and lives were burned in order to plunder more resources and land for survival. If the expected benefits were not achieved, all wars were just stupid actions. Previously, Lin Yuan had taught the first flood dragon that the king should not be angry and send troops to war. Only an idiot would fight a war without any benefits. What's more, once a war broke out between the two sides, it wasn't that the brave crab tribe couldn't get the expected benefits at all, but that they were cutting off their own path of survival. At the cost of completely offending Lin Yuan, as well as other speculators who might rely on Lin Yuan in the future, they obtained the remnant slopeland of the Willowstone Sea that had experienced 2 consecutive wars in a short period of time, as well as the greedy eyes of the surrounding sea demon tribes. What do you mean by maximizing benefits? This was called maximizing benefits. Black Water Dragon King is awesome. Broken sound. Lin Yuan glanced at Cyrus, who suddenly became excited for some reason, and shook his head helplessly. It was rare for him to pay attention to Cyrus' self-improvement behavior. He twisted his body and walked to the backyard to recover his demonic energy. After all, maintaining the large-scale eye of the god consumed a lot of demonic energy. If he wanted to expand the surveillance area, it would not be a passive skill that had no consumption. On the other side, Shinwu Dynasty, Central Plains, Sky Demon Army Granary. A Sky Demon soldier yawned and leaned against the gate listlessly. He rolled his dead fish eyes and glanced at the surrounding forest shrouded in darkness. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, he actually crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the gate to take a nap. He even let out light snoring sounds. Zhao Guangchong, who was hiding in the forest without showing his head, frowned slightly. He made a few gestures to the messenger who was also hiding beside him. The messenger immediately understood and imitated the chirping of birds in the forest to convey Zhao Guangchong's orders to the troops hiding in the surroundings. To put it simply, Zhao Guangchong, who had rushed all the way here, did not care whether he would be discovered or not. After all, those who participated in this mission to attack the granary were all men of sacrifice. Once they confirmed that the granary was real, they would burn all the food here even if it meant sacrificing their lives. If this was not the granary, then they would have attracted the Sky Demon assassins and would not have the protection of the lurkers. It could be said that they would definitely die. However, looking at the situation here, it was completely different from what Zhao Guangchong expected. Not to mention the ambush, even the guards inside and outside the granary were quite lax. It was as if they did not know that Zhao Guangchong and the others had set out. Therefore, Zhao Guangchong used his own judgment to inform the surrounding troops that this might not be the real granary. They would feign an attack and then scatter and retreat. Whether or not they could return to the northern frontier alive would depend on their own methods. From this granary to the source of Wei River, they would have to go through the inspection of Zhang Xiuzhu and the others. This process could not be described as long, but it was indeed abnormally dangerous. Most of the troops would not even be able to reach the source of Wei River alive. Cuckoo? Cuckoo. The chirping of birds sounded in the forest again. This was the response of his companions. Zhao Guangchong thought for a moment and then made a few more hand gestures. The messenger replied according to his intentions. His companions were asking if there was still a need to attack fiercely since this was not the real granary. After all, from the speed at which the invisible Sky Demon transmitted information, as soon as they appeared, they would attract the Sky Demon assassins. Retreating earlier would still allow them to complete the mission, and their chances of survival would also be higher. Zhao Guangchong's response was to attack with all their might and break through the line of defense here. Although from the attitude of these guards, there was a 90% chance that this was not the granary. People's physiques could not be lumped together, let alone the Sky Demon, who was of a different race from them. With the invisible Sky Demon transmitting information, it was reasonable for the guards to be lax. As long as they did not receive any information from their companions, it meant that no one would attack this place. And according to the time of the attack, unless Zhao Guangchong did not care about whether he was exposed or not and directly attacked this place on the main road, it was impossible for him to arrive at this time. However, once Zhao Guangchong was discovered on the main road and was discovered, the invisible Sky Demon would immediately report back. Just in case, it was better to charge in and take a look. Sky Demon, hand over your life. After passing down the order, Zhao Guangchong once again displayed the characteristics of a boorish man. Aura Chi erupted from his body, and the aura of a Heaven Star Border Realm Level 2 surged out. He brandished his halberd and rushed out of the dense forest. Just as he reached the open area, He threw the halberd in his hand and nailed the sleeping sky demon to the gate of the stronghold. What followed was close combat and street fighting. Long weapons were not convenient, but the saber at his waist was more useful. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Damn it! Come out and form a line of defense for me. Compared to the Blackwater Army warriors who rushed out of the dense forest one after another, the Sky Demon's side was clearly much more chaotic. Chapter 762. Zhao Guangchong's speed soared to the limit as he burst out with all his strength, leaving behind long after images with every movement. Zhao Guangchong rushed to the entrance of the granary, almost as soon as he finished speaking. He raised his sword and chopped down 2 Sky Demon soldiers who were trying to push the gate open. He roared, "Charge in!" Although he felt that something was wrong, now was not the time to care about those details. One by one, the Blackwater Army soldiers raised their weapons and charged into the granary. The Sky Demon soldiers were defeated almost immediately, and the situation quickly turned into a one-sided massacre. This seemed wrong. But it also seemed normal. In order to lure the experts of the northern frontier to attack the various ambush points, the Sky Demon side had prepared both false and true information. But there was one thing that was the same. The defenses of the various ambush points were not strong. In order to let the humans of the northern frontier see the dawn of victory in the surprise attack, the Sky Demon side had deliberately weakened the defenses of the various ambush points. This was originally a harmless matter, because according to the Sky Demon's plan, these human warriors would probably run into the assassins halfway and would not be able to reach the ambush points alive. Even if there were a few fish that escaped the net, it would not matter. A group of panicked and exhausted soldiers was more than enough to be slaughtered by the not-so-powerful garrison. But the problem was that Zhao Guangchong's group did not run into any invisible Sky Demon or any of the assassin squads that had been deployed in advance. The entire team arrived at the granary in peak condition. Thus, the outcome of the battle was decided. 10 minutes later. Glancing at his subordinates who were using the magic sealing bottle to detain the Sky Demon's body, Zhao Guangchong wiped the blood from his face, revealing his still dirty and resolute facial features. Until now, he still had not figured out what the Sky Demon's trick was. Shouldn't this be an ambush point? Why did it now look like the Sky Demon was delivering his head to them? Taking 2 steps forward, Zhao Guangchong swung the long sword in his hand and cut open a gunny sack that had not yet been moved into the granary. The terrifying sword energy blasted a 3-meter-deep hole in the ground. Walala! The food in the gunny sack instantly poured into the small hole and filled a corner in an instant. The food is real. Is this really the Sky Demon's granary? Zhao Guangchong's eyes trembled slightly as he muttered to himself in disbelief. Although the Sky Demon could live without his body, he would lose his influence on the material world. Thus, if he wanted to fight against the northern frontier, he had to have a physical body and take care of his body. The Sky Demon could not avoid topics such as food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. According to the research results of the Northern Frontier Scientific Research Department, because the soul was incompatible with the physical body, there was a high chance that the Sky Demon would be infected by diseases that practitioners would not be infected by. If he encountered a terminal illness, even the Sky Demon could only leave his body and live in the form of a spiritual body. If he wanted to live in this world, it was much more difficult for the Sky Demon to live with a physical body than it was for humans. Thus, although the granary here was not very important to the Sky Demon, it was definitely not to be underestimated. For war, there was never enough food. To feed such a large army, the amount of food consumed every day was a terrifying number. After all, although practitioners with powerful cultivation could not eat or drink, they still needed a large amount of food to accumulate strength if they wanted to unleash 100% of their combat strength. If they relied solely on the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, they would sooner or later die from weakness. There's really food? After a short rest, the Blackwater army that accompanied Zhao Guangchong pulled out their swords and cut open the gunny sacks. Seeing the large amount of food flowing out like water, their faces were filled with disbelief. Although there was no time to verify it one by one, a conservative estimate was that the amount of food they cut open was enough to feed an army of tens of millions for 3 days. There was also the food in the granary that had not been counted. In short, the Sky Demon side would definitely feel the pain of destroying all the food here. Set the food on fire. Let's go. Zhao Guangchong sheathed his sword and expressionlessly threw the torch that had just been lit by a Blackwater army soldier into the granary. The rest of the Black Water Army soldiers followed suit.
They threw the torches in their hands and whatever combustible materials they could find into the granary, or onto the piles of food that were piled up in the open-air square outside. Then, they sheathed their swords and quietly and orderly headed towards the jungle shrouded in darkness outside.
The Northern Frontier Academy did not look at one's body or aptitude when recruiting students, only whether they had the heart to learn. As for what results they could obtain and what position they would be assigned to, that was a matter of personal ability and had nothing to do with the policies of the Northern Frontier. However, as long as they joined the academy, they would receive the full training of all the instructors of the Northern Frontier. This kind of treatment was not essential for the children of aristocratic families and sects, but it was a precious opportunity for the children of poor families. Therefore, most of the students of the Northern Frontier Academy did not come from very good backgrounds. Setting fire to so much food was an incomparably huge torture to their nature. If it was possible, they would like to transport the food from here and use it to support the various regions in the northern region. But in the end, reason prevailed over greed and they left without any hesitation. Even though their journey had been smooth and unimpeded, and they had slaughtered the heavenly demons guarding this place without a hitch, who knew what kind of horrors would await them on their way back? Whether they could return to the northern frontier alive was still a question. Bringing so much food on the road was suicide. After the Black Water Army had all left and the granary was wrapped in flames, Diablo slowly walked out of the dark forest. His 6 arms were crossed in front of him as he coldly looked at the burning flames in front of him. Adelaide. A cold glint flashed in Diablo's amber eyes as he softly muttered a name. A moment later, a monster wrapped in a tattered black robe floated out of the forest behind him. Only a skull with green flames could be seen. It said respectfully, "My beloved king, what's the matter? Have you prepared the things I asked you to prepare?" Diablo did not turn around. Instead, he stared at the flames in front of him and asked slowly. Some time ago, the aristocratic families tried to destroy the construction of the northern frontier with the food they bought from the demonic sect. Although the plan was thwarted by my great master, the food was not completely destroyed. With the help of my master subordinates, I found a batch of food and contaminated it with necromancy magic. The new food has the ability to infect others. When they are placed together with normal food, they will gradually infect the normal food and turn it into infected food. Chapter 763. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. Diablo coldly interrupted Adelaide's opening speech. Adelaide bowed slightly and continued, "The new epidemic food is ready. After eating the epidemic food, it's not as simple as an incurable disease. Normal people will have a high fever and be weak for 3 days after eating the epidemic food. After 3 days, they will return to normal. After that, there will be an incubation period of 7 to 15 days. When the incubation period is over, these people who eat the epidemic food will suddenly die." "That's it?" Diablo turned his head slightly and glanced at Adelaide from the corner of his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "You should know that these scumbags who dare to go against our great master can survive without a physical body. You poisoned them to death. Essentially, it is meaningless. You..." He paused and clenched his teeth. "After wasting so much time and resources, is this how you repay our great master's trust? Diablo, my revered king, I've always said that your biggest problem is your impatience. If you are willing to make a small change, our great master will trust you even more." Adelaide's skeletal face twisted into a sinister smile. During the incubation period, all living things that the carriers come in contact with will also be infected by this terrible disease and become new carriers. After the outbreak of the disease, although only the physical body will die, it is not that simple. The dead carriers will be transformed into all kinds of undead soldiers by my necromancy magic. They will madly attack all living things that they can sense, killing and transforming them. Only then did Diablo's expression lighten up a little, but it was only by a little. As a demon who was proficient in all kinds of necromancy magic, Diablo knew very well what necromancy magic was. These newborn undead soldiers were not enough to deal a destructive blow to the Sky Demon Army. Their biggest use was to annoy the Sky Demon Army. "Your eyes are making me shiver, my revered king." Adelaide laughed with a weird voice and said in a deep voice, "I never said that these undead creatures are my proudest ability, did I? It was the carrier of the disease that was spreading like crazy. These undead are only used to detain the Sky Demon army and prevent them from directly attacking the northern frontier.
Before that, you should first think about how to prevent the carriers who may have eaten the epidemic food from coming into contact with the subordinates of the Great Master before the outbreak of the first incubation period.
This plague was ineffective against demons who were proficient in necromancy, but it was incomparably fatal to humans and the Sky Demon who possessed human bodies. Once such a plague broke out, the defensive lines set up by the northern frontier would instantly become a joke. Adelaide was like a lunatic. This was the conclusion shared by Diablo and Lin Yuan. Strictly speaking, this monster that Lin Yuan named the Lich Ancestor was not a demon. It was an undead creature that hated life. When Lin Yuan created it, he said it to be proficient in all kinds of black magic and undead magic. Its personality was also a lunatic that was passionate about all kinds of strange research. It also had a little bit of hatred and disregard for life. Unknowingly, Lin Yuan had already created a lunatic that was even crazier than Cyrus. At the very least, Cyrus did a series of evil things to leave a big bad name in history. However, Adelaide was not like that.
Every time it harvested lives, it was just an experiment to see if there was any possibility of improvement in one of its methods.
Adelaide turned around and looked at a group of imps who were pushing carriages loaded with epidemic food. It smiled and said, "I call this experiment Adelaide's gift. What do you think, my revered king? I think your horse is gone. You lunatic. You don't respect me at all, and you insist on calling me your revered king." Diablo's eyelids twitched slightly. He turned his head and was silent for a while. Then he said in a deep voice, "I think it's very good. Come on, Adelaide. Sooner or later, you will become the right-hand man of Master."
After moving some Sky Demon corpses that were prepared in advance and covering the carriages with epidemic food, Adelaide stretched out its bony fingers and rubbed its chin. After a full 5 minutes, it nodded and said to the imps who were constantly changing the movement of the corpses, "Very good.
It's like a scene where you were trying to save the food but were attacked by human troops. Put down the corpses and hide. When the Sky Demon comes, you will make some noise and quickly escape. Pretend that you can't handle the food in time, understand?"
Even the lowest-level imps that could only be used as coolies were not existences that the invisible Sky Demon could fight against. Therefore, the ones who discovered this place could only be celestial demon warriors with physical bodies. When they transported this batch of food away, they would know what Adelaide's gift was. 7 days later, a Sky Demon soldier who was standing guard suddenly squatted down. A large amount of sweat was constantly secreting from the pores all over his body. His chest was violently moving up and down, and he was panting like a broken bellows. "Ha ha ha, look, this is the fragile body of a human."
This unlucky guy was seriously ill a few days ago. It was not easy to cure him, but now he's sick again. A patrolling Sky Demon laughed and squatted beside the sick Sky Demon soldier. He mocked, "Why are you guarding this body like it's a treasure? If I were you, I would have given up my body and gone to the front line to investigate the situation." Recently, the invisible Sky Demon at the front line would always mysteriously disappear. Therefore, more and more Sky Demon soldiers were unwilling to give up their bodies and go to the front line to investigate the situation at the northern frontier. They would rather guard their fragile bodies and stay in the military tents than do the kind of work that could disappear at any time. Because of this, the higher-ups had lost their temper countless times. Small team leaders like him were given a hard order to send some invisible Sky Demon soldiers to support the front line. However, no matter how much he persuaded, it was useless. If this continued, he would be stripped of all his privileges and be sent to the front line to participate in the direct battle. Therefore, he was in a very bad mood. Whenever he saw the Sky Demon soldiers who would rather guard their sick bodies than give up their bodies, he could not help but mock them. However, this time, he did not realize that danger was quietly approaching. The sick Sky Demon squatted on the ground. His breathing was gradually calming down, but his eyes that were once black and white were gradually turning blood red. Chapter 764. Roar! A beast-like roar came from the mouth of the sick Sky Demon. The mocking Sky Demon didn't even have time to react before he was thrown to the ground by a huge force. Immediately after, a black shadow quickly pounced on him, opened its mouth, and crazily bit at his flesh. Intense pain hit him like a tidal wave. "No! No way, right? I was just saying a few words. Oh, save me. Save me. Ah.
Feeling a large amount of his life force drain away, the mocking sky demon reached out his hand to the patrol team that came with him and screamed for help. Wounds caused by sharp teeth appeared, and a large amount of blood flowed out, almost dyeing the ground red. At this time, the patrolling sky demon, who were shocked by the sudden change, went forward to pull away the crazy sky demon that kept biting their captain. However, they realized that this crazy person's strength was ridiculously strong. 4 sky demon warriors went forward but couldn't pull him away. Instead, they were bitten by him several times.
He's crazy. Kill him.
A sky demon that was bitten changed his expression and let out a roar. He unsheathed the long sword at his waist and instantly chopped off the crazy person's head. Even so, the crazy sky demon's body spasmed on the ground for a while, showing an extremely strong life force. At this time, a sharp-eyed sky demon realized that their captain had stood up at some point.
Roar!
It was similar to the roar of a wild beast. They had heard it from the mouth of the crazy heavenly demon not long ago, but at this moment, this roar came from their captain. Black blood flowed out of his torn and tattered body as he staggered toward his former subordinates. The sky demon captain's eyes gradually turned dark red, and a cold, hungry, beast-like look flashed in them. The 4 sky demon patrols were slightly startled and began to retreat. The sky demon was a race with a clear hierarchy. They could kill their own kind without any psychological burden because that fellow was just like them, the most ordinary sky demon. However, the captain of this patrol team had the more noble blood of the sky demon flowing in his body.
What did it mean to kill a sky demon noble?
They, or even their families, were going to be killed by the heavenly demon commander.
Such a scene was not unique to this place.
More and more sky demons suddenly died from the plague after the 7 days of incubation. Many sky demon did not even leave their bodies until they died. They were turned into a part of the undead along with their physical bodies. If Diablo knew that his subordinates had killed a large number of invisible sky demon, causing the sky demon to value their physical bodies so much that they were unwilling to leave their bodies, and causing the sky demon side to lose a lot of men due to Adelmon's gift, who knew what kind of expression he would have? Countless undead sky demon warriors chased after even more sky demon warriors and bit them. More and more sky demon warriors joined the ranks of the normal sky demon because of the end of the incubation period or because they were infected by the undead. The entire base seemed to have turned into a living hell. On a mountain peak not far away, Adelaide was holding a pair of binoculars produced by the Ministry of Works of the Northern Frontier. He quietly observed the sky demon base where the undead plague broke out. His skeletal face squeezed out a hideous smile again. Adelaide's gift had been successfully completed. The next step of the plan was to control the undead army to attack more sky demon.
The plan's codename was Calamity.
What a pity! Adelaide smacked his lips and murmured, "Those damned greedy demons will eat the invisible celestial demon as soon as they catch it.
Even Diablo's order is useless.
Otherwise, I would really want to find a few celestial demons' spiritual bodies to study." Unfortunately, it was only a spellcaster who needed to chant incantations and borrow the power of its great master in order to cast spells. If it encountered a heavenly demon warrior who excelled at explosive speed, it would be beaten to the point where it couldn't fight back at all. Not only that, those damned demons couldn't be trusted, and the humans in the Northern Territory were unable to enter this land filled with plague and undead. Moreover, Adelaide had already asked around. Although the Northern Frontier had caught many sky demon, almost all of them had sunk into the Nether Realm's black water. After all, they did not have any other means to destroy the sky demon except for the Nether Realm's black water. Naturally, they would not give the sky demon a chance to break through the seal and wreak havoc in the rear. It seemed that he had to go back and study how to improve the combat power of spellcasters in close combat. As for the sky demon that was said to be immortal and did not need a physical body to survive, it was no different from a joke to Adelaide and Diablo. The latter saw the spiritual bodies of the sky demon as food that he could not eat, while the former was proficient in black magic and undead magic. He was a master of manipulating the mind and soul. When it came to dealing with the invisible sky demon, they could say that they were experts. A group of things that were similar to ghosts had to provoke Lin Yuan, the Nether King recognized by the will of the world. This kind of behavior was usually called courting death. Whether it was black magic or undead magic, for Lin Yuan, who had a preliminary control of the power of the Nether River, they were all things that he could use at his fingertips. After all,
They were all models that could be directly copied from novels in his previous life. In essence, the only difference was the way to use the power. However, as a demon beast with a tyrannical physical body and a dragon scale armor that strengthens its defense, Lin Yuan prefers to fight with fists to the flesh, or hide directly behind the scenes and be a black hand-level traitor. He is too lazy to use these disgusting and sinister powers. On the other side, in the Endless Sea, in the Willow Stone region. That's about it. Cyrus stood beside Lin Yuan and said with a fervent look, "The brave crab tribe is willing to announce that the Endless Sea will become a subsidiary force of our Willow Stone region. As for the other sea demon tribes around, although they have not expressed their opinions, their attitudes are quite ambiguous. It is said that the various small forces around the Willow Stone region have recently been wiped out by many forces. They probably want to do us a favor." "That's normal." Lin Yuan nodded slightly and said indifferently, "The evil dragon camp has joined forces with me. In addition to the previous incident where I harmed Long Jiuzi, in the eyes of most sea demon tribes, I have an irreconcilable hatred with the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Who knows if the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas will take revenge on me? Not everyone has such decisiveness." "You mean to accept the brave crab tribe?" Cyrus was slightly stunned and looked at Lin Yuan with a puzzled face. It seemed that this was not what it had expected. Chapter 765. Lin Yuan nodded and said indifferently, "The strength of the gray-scaled flood dragon person is too weak. Although it is more than enough to defend the Willow Stone Sea area with you, wanting to go one step further and obtain a bigger territory is tantamount to a fool's dream. Under such circumstances, if other sea demon clans are willing to join us, what reason do I have to reject them?" Cyrus was speechless. After pondering for a while, Cyrus smiled bitterly and said, "I understand what the Dragon King is thinking. However, the Endless Sea is still the territory of the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas. Both you and the gray-scaled flood dragon person have the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. If you're willing to lower your head, advancing further is just a word from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. On the other hand, no matter how much power you accumulate, you can't wantonly dominate the Endless Sea when you're hostile to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas." Indeed, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was not in a good state now. Outside, there were old dominators surrounding them. Inside, there were various subordinates of the Dragon Palace who wanted to rebel. The evil dragon camp, which was originally a spy of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, had completely broken off their relationship with the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas. Now, Ao Sifan had even begun to command his loyal subordinates to clear out the spies that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas had placed in the evil dragon camp to express his determination. Even if the Guild of Sea Demons, which was estranged from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, and the outer ocean demon beasts that had given birth to their own civilization, they were still enemies of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, but they had not completely fallen out with each other yet. However, thinking about it carefully, now that the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas had become enemies with the entire Endless Sea, did they really care about the Endless Sea demon beasts? The answer was no. Of course, this was partly due to the pride and arrogance of the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas. However, on the other hand, would the Endless Sea demon beasts that seemed to have the upper hand have the guts to start a war with the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas? Both sides could have countless small conflicts. However, when it came to a war that involved the destruction of the entire clan, both the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas and the Endless Sea demon beasts tacitly stopped. Why was that? This was because the true enemies of the dragon race of the Four Seas had always been the old dominators who possessed spiritual influence. On the contrary, the beasts of the Endless Sea didn't dare to declare war on the dragon tribe of the Four Seas, because they knew what kind of enemy they were going to face. Their chance of winning this war was actually less than 30%. Thus, they could only use all kinds of small tricks to weaken the dragon tribe of the Four Seas, and continuously strive for more benefits for themselves. Cyrus clearly knew who was the real master of the Endless Sea. It had never been optimistic about Lin Yuan's ability to arm wrestle with the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas. That's why the brave crab race is so terrifying. Lin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly and he said meaningfully, "That clan leader famed for his bravery may not be best at his own bravery." While the other speculators were still watching, he could even half-reluctantly bet all of his wealth, using the survival of his entire race to bet that I would win. Bet. Cyrus snorted and sneered. I think you've overestimated him. This time, the young clan leader of the brave crab race has come to the Willowstone Sea area, which has already made you feel disgusted. If the brave crab race doesn't pay a huge price, then you're destined to not accept them. Even if he has his own considerations, he can only be considered a gambler, not a wise man, right? Lin Yuan smiled and didn't respond. However, his evaluation of Cyrus in his heart had once again lowered. It seemed that the clan leader with the title of Iron Mane had always disguised himself well for so many years. Most of the speculators wanted to curry favor with Lin Yuan simply because they felt that the aberrant who could force the dragon clan of the Four Seas to abandon their territory in the Endless Sea and flee to the continent was not easy to deal with. Even if they gathered the power of the entire Endless Sea, they might not be able to win this war. They wanted to use this matter to curry favor with Lin Yuan to obtain an opportunity to develop in the Qianwu continent. Although Lin Yuan was currently restricted to the Endless Sea, all the leaders of the demonic beast clans knew that the demonic beasts of the Endless Sea were destined to not be accepted by the Qianwu continent. Only Lin Yuan, who had his own territory, was qualified to allow them to continue to breed on the continent. Therefore, when the time came, even if Lin Yuan didn't want to leave, he would be forced to leave by the powerful demonic beasts of the Endless Sea. At the same time, those who would be taken away would also be the outstanding juniors of the various clans. Under such circumstances, there were many demonic beasts who were willing to curry favor with Lin Yuan. However, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas and Lin Yuan seemed to have formed a death grudge, so these speculators did not dare to go too far. They could only use various methods to curry favor with Lin Yuan and strive for a good impression. If there really came a day when their clans went to the continent, they would be able to obtain a good territory. Then, when the other sea demon clans were cowering, what could they do to maximize the benefits? That was to ignore the dragon clan of the Four Seas and resolutely rely on Lin Yuan. It was easy to say, but it was extremely difficult to achieve this. Although the dragon clan of the Four Seas did not find trouble with Lin Yuan now, that was because the great old ones were like a sharp blade hanging over their heads. It was hard to say whether they could protect their territory in the Endless Sea. Currying favor with Lin Yuan was also part of the plan. But what if this war was won? Would Lin Yuan, who had gathered a large number of sea demon clans under his command, threaten the dragon clan of the Four Seas' position in the Endless Sea? The answer was yes. At that time, the dragon clan of the Four Seas would definitely not be polite to Lin Yuan. They would definitely send troops to suppress him. They would either kill Lin Yuan, assimilate Lin Yuan, or drive him back to the Sky Martial continent. And the clans that gathered around Lin Yuan would have no other choice, only death. Those speculators who curried favor with Lin Yuan were the real gamblers. On the contrary, the clan leader of the Iron Mackerel clan was a wise man who had hidden himself well. Who knew if the young clan leader's provocation of Lin Yuan was incited or hinted by his father? If they did not want to be listed as a threat by the dragon clan of the Four Seas, they would have to pay the necessary price. For example, they would first provoke Lin Yuan's disgust, then sacrifice the young clan leader that they thought highly of. After paying a huge price, the entire Brave Crab clan would be, unwillingly, under Lin Yuan's command. In this way, the Dragon clan of the Four Seas would not have an excuse to find trouble with them. Even if such a day really came, they would be able to abandon the darkness for the light at any time and become a vanguard of the Dragon clan of the Four Seas to suppress Lin Yuan. No clan leader with the character of a gambler would bet the survival of the entire clan on his own vision. Tai Mantis's actions could only show that he had enough foresight. He could vaguely see the great changes in the future of the Endless Sea and Lin Yuan's ambition, so he had made sufficient preparations. Chapter 766. Back to the topic. Have you thought about the next step of the Willowstone Sea area? Lin Yuan took a deep breath and threw away all the distracting thoughts in his mind before asking. Cyrus was slightly taken aback. In a low voice he said, "The situation in the Willow Rock Sea region is rather special because the nearby demonic beasts all want to curry favor with us. If we can't find an excuse to start a war, it's impossible to expand by force. We can only implement another path of development, such as trade." Cyrus paused and seemed to organize his words before continuing. The Willowstone Sea area has a special product called Willowstone. It has good density and some self-recovery ability. It's considered a hot product and is a material that should be prioritized when building strategic facilities. Although other sea areas also produce it, the total amount can't be compared to the Willowstone Sea area. This is also the reason why various forces coveted the territory of the Willowstone Sea area. My idea is not enough. Before Cyrus could finish speaking, Lin Yuan shook his head gently and said in a deep voice, "It's not that simple to do business. How many Willowstone mines are there, where they are distributed, how many people we have to start production, and how many Willowstones we can produce every month? Have you investigated all these things? If not, you have to start from the beginning. If you have, then just one special product won't be enough to support trade activities. I haven't investigated these things, but there are records stored over the years. If you want to investigate in detail, it will be very fast. Also, after the brave crab tribe joins us, we will have more people. Mining a large amount of Willowstones won't be a problem. Besides, Willowstones are selling very well in the Endless Sea. If we can organize a caravan, we won't have to worry about sales. Now that the relationship between various parties is complicated, even if the dragon tribe of the Four Seas wants Willowstones, they will have to take out materials to exchange. Willowstones were tributes in the past. If the Willowstone Sea area didn't fall into our hands, we wouldn't even have the qualifications to do trade." Cyrus's face slightly changed, but he immediately felt relieved. The Black Water Dragon King in front of him was a big boss who relied on trade to stabilize the northern frontier. He was undoubtedly more professional than a layman like him. It was reasonable to raise doubts. "Yes, you're right. There's no need to worry about selling Willowstones. It can bring in a lot of value in a short period of time. But you've neglected the most important point, which is that the investment and effort will slowly become disproportionate as time passes. In the past, Willowstones were something that the lobster had offered as a tribute to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Only the dragon race of the Four Seas had the right to use Willowstones to build and maintain buildings. In the short term, if he organized caravans to sell Willowstones, there would be people buying them from all over the world. Along the way, he would bring some goods from various sea regions to sell in other sea regions. Indeed, he would be able to earn a large amount of phase and various resources. But speaking of which, haven't you ever thought that all goods have market saturation? For example, if you sell Willowstones to the nearby sea region, it's simple and convenient, but how many Willowstones can the people in the nearby sea region consume? As time passes, the sea regions you have to go to will be farther and farther away. You'll need to invest a lot of time and energy. Moreover, not all sea demon tribes will be kind to us. Once you leave our sphere of influence, apart from merchants in charge of selling goods and odd job workers to transport goods, you'll also need to hire a large number of experts to accompany and protect you. Have you calculated the cost of these phase? The profit of Willowstones will become smaller and smaller, and the harvest cycle will become longer and longer. However, the scale of the caravan will continue to expand, and the various expenses of hiring people will also increase. Gradually, our profits will become losses. I know you want to imitate the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, but the Endless Sea is different from the Hungduan mountain range. The Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce provides convenience for the other human dynasties and demon tribes. In addition, with my face and the exclusive right to operate, there's no need to worry about the goods being ruined. Therefore, it can continuously provide a large amount of income. Lin Yuan's voice was very soft, but when it fell into Cyrus's ears, it was like a heavy hammer pounding on its head. It had never heard of terms like market saturation and exclusive right to operate. However, if it continued to follow Lin Yuan's train of thought, it would indeed suffer more and more losses by selling Willowstones. After all, Willowstones were not hard currency like grains. Willowstones were definitely good stuff, but the price could not be outrageous. Otherwise, the other sea demon tribes would still be able to survive well after relying on ordinary materials to build their territories for so many years. Without a major threat, who would be willing to spend more money? Sooner or later, Willowstones would be difficult to sell. As the sea regions they had to go to were farther and farther away, the scale and strength of the caravan would have to be gradually increased. This would further reduce the profits. Cyrus suddenly felt bitter and did not know what to say for a moment. Although there were teleportation portals that could connect the powerful sea regions directly, and there was no need to forcefully travel through them, the most important problem now was that the foundation of the Willowstone Sea region had been destroyed in the previous battle. In order not to leave any evidence behind, after trapping the 9 sons of the dragon race, the other controlled parties had also been killing and destroying each other. The teleportation portal of the Willowstone Sea region did not escape the disaster and was damaged in that great battle. The method of building teleportation portals had always been in the hands of the dragons of the 4 seas. Ever since the subordinates of the dragon palaces gradually became disobedient, the dragons of the 4 seas no longer built new teleportation portals, nor would they maintain or repair the ones they had built. It could be said that every time it was used, there would be less of it. To teleport between different sea regions, a large number of materials or spiritual items were required to use it. Therefore, the way of doing business through teleportation portals was also cut off. The cost and the profits were completely unequal. However, Lin Yuan changed the topic and said in a deep voice, "Business is indeed a way." Cyrus's face was even more dumbfounded. Good heavens, what the F***CK? I said business, and you told me it was not feasible. You just reprimanded me, and now you say business is a way. So you have no problem, and business is not a problem, but I have a problem? Cyrus was immediately enraged. In extreme anger, it squeezed out a smile. Dragon King, please advise me on what to do. Mine the Willowstone Sea region and build a city. The bigger, the better, and the more luxurious, the better. In short, I want everyone who comes to the Willowstone Sea region to be amazed. I want their first reaction to be that the Willowstone Sea region is rich and powerful. I'll take care of the rest. Lin Yuan's tail gently tapped the ground, and his multicolored eyes flickered. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.